don't know.
started
I don't know how
stream.
crazy they'll get. But it's getting to the point where it's hard to like dispute what people want.
Yeah.
Granted, they act like friggin' children. So
You two
it might
idiots
not
gotta
matter.
change your colors, and we're still waiting for Bobo, yeah?
Oh
I heard,
yeah, we are. Shit, Bob, are you coming?
I'm at 50% if you guys want to start it.
You
I'll join.
downloading this game now?
Yeah. Yeah.
good for fucking nothing, Bob. Doesn't keep
Both
his
are at
games
50%
downloaded.
when we ask. I don't fucking believe you. You're sitting
Yeah,
there
I had
jerking your
a
shit.
I was 50% at Faz, then you guys were like, no, we're gonna play Civ. So I uninstalled that, and then I turned on the Civ install, and now I'm at 50%.
I gotta punch you in your tummy. I'm gonna
Don't.
get banned on TikTok for saying that. Sorry, Bobby. I would never hit you.
I forgive
I would
you.
hit you, but only if I had your consent. TikTok should like that one.
We'll see about that.
Are you streaming live on TikTok right now?
TikTok, YouTube, and Twitch.
TikTok, these nuts are dangling.
Not Anthony. Bobby, do you want me to select a leader for you?
Yeah, there's gonna be a bunch of crap.
So you can come into it? Is there a leader that you like?
I feel like there's a certain world leader missing from this game.
Just give me like, who's the military, big military guy?
Germany.
Big
Big military guy, funny mustache.
Yeah, I'll just do Germany.
You don't want like Trajan or
Whoa.
oh, you're Trajan.
I'll take Trajan.
Oh.
So
Alright,
Frederick Barbosa.
Yeah.
Okay.
Barbasoda.
Barbasoda, yeah.
Barbie soda? Sounds like Australia, if you know what I'm saying.
Fresh off the Barbie.
Fresh off the Barbie, and I'm drinking a soda.
Did it not?
But in almost every county, she's underperforming. Again, this is the black belt proportion of African American.
Now my shit says not owned. How do you fix this? Pick the
Um,
other Teddy
Yeah,
Roosevelt?
pick the other Teddy.
Oh, fuck all that. I don't... I want to be a Rough Rider. Bull Moose is cooler.
Yeah, Bull Moose is cooler.
Alright, you guys fuckheads. I mean, what could be cooler than establishing the first and only, like, the still lasting national parks?
You know, it'd be cool if you readied up.
I was ready like a long time ago, and then some shit happened, man.
I don't believe you.
Why is Anthony's little like thing yellow? Is that because he's in fucking Idaho?
Probably. That's a screen for me. Also, good work doxing him.
Yeah, what the fuck is going on here? Come on, there's a big state. How would they know where he's at?
From the first stirrings of life beneath water to the great beasts.
My name is Charlie for the rest of the stream.
What's your major, bro?
Oh yeah, I was going by Trundle the Great at that time. No, you started calling yourself that after you wrote that.
Extend your reach beyond your borders and across the face of the globe.
Oh no.
Over the possibility of defeat for your loyal redcoats.
And
What's up now?
happened?
Oh.
And we're settling.
Hold on.
Who's up here by me? Who's this? Who's green? Some jackal. Alright, jackalope. I'm gonna come start searching.
He's gonna come.
I'm gonna come north by you. We're gonna build a fortress together.
Alright, son of jackal, I'm gonna come.
Unit needs orders.
Oh, I'm at the Po River. Let's go. You guys ever been to the Pooh River?
No, but I've been to River Trent.
that, you know, what is different between Joe Biden and Kamala Harris? Everybody thinks they're exactly the same on policies, but one
All right.
is a woman of color. And
Democracy is
white
on
man that
the
everybody was
line.
really comfortable with, that were moderates and
Right in
look at
Jeb
Mel,
Bush
and
or
that
this
none of
country.
them- I think you're
Jeb.
My table.
Jeb.
How can you be?
It doesn't count unless you put it in all caps with an exclamation point.
Yeah.
Joe,
In
Joe, are you
parentheses,
streaming?
please clap. Yes, I am streaming.
How do I see the stream?
I said bait.
Oh, I
4
can
times.
stream in Discord too.
Yeah.
Let
We
me
shall see. Okay. We want to pause just a moment. We've got a lot more to get to. At the top of the hour, we're going to have the big poll closings in California. Got an election alert. Poll closing in about.
How about you take your
20
fucking
seconds
turn?
now. So,
Yeah, you guys, you know, we went through the baby steps game. Now we got to speed it up.
Probably not.
Speed it up. Speed it up.
I gotta know what research I want first.
We'll move a little bit faster.
All right. Anthony, I'm streaming in Discord now.
Sick, dude.
Oh, Tone, you're pretty close to me. Not really, but kinda. Those green fucks are a little too close.
Oh boy.
Oh, damn, that stinks.
Do we take over this city-state, Nick? You
What
gonna
are
go
you
kill this
talking
guy
about?
together and take over his base?
I haven't even fucking founded a city yet.
Yeah, you could also trade with him and then just take his city.
All right, that's fine.
Kick his ass.
Nazca. Nazca.
Please wait. Can I fucking found something? Thank you.
You can found these nuts.
Oh, bang. Oh, there's a natural wonder next to me, isn't there? I see a bunch of culture. And
Choose the research.
Money.
Production.
Money, 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 money.
I have a tag on my TikTok stream for Jeb Maxing that says learn more about the US elections. What is there to learn? You Jeb Max or die.
Who is Rome?
I'm Rome.
A doomsday.
Alright, well then maybe, Duke, you can link up with Nick and we can just build a huge fucking wall of a fort.
Build a
Yeah, that
wall. Build a
sounds
blue
sick.
wall.
I want to build a blue wall.
Alright, fuck it. Trump night, we're building a wall.
Trump night building a wall.
Can I? Oh, I can fortify these guys, can't it? What
What were
happens
my-
if you fortify? Are they just
What were my
harder
city
to kill?
names last time, Joe? They were pretty good.
Oh,
yeah.
shit, we found Mexico City and we gotta build a wall.
Wait, did you actually find Mexico City? Yeah.
Oh boy. Get the wall up.
Build it. Build that wall.
They're coming for my sales position.
Where's Mexico City? We gotta wall it in.
But it's not like Cambridge, Massachusetts, right? It's not 60.
Oh man, they're close to Pickle City of Rock Hadid,
Tonight she's doing well. She's turning out the vote there, about 30% Hispanic.
which is just south of my city. Drive by cum shot.
Yeah, that's the one I remembered. There was also like just ass fuck.
What
Think so.
Natural wonder discovered.
Yeah, that's the one that I saw next to me.
I can't do anything until I get another builder, huh?
We'll sort of dissect it and figure it out, but it's going to be a while before we call Arizona, Savannah, as you know.
All right, thank you, Tom. We got our panel here. We got Chuck. We got Savannah Sellers over here. Chuck, what are you making of what we're seeing? What the trend lines are?
There's a reason why there's anxiety in the Harris camp, and
What time's this election finish at?
I mean,
Sometime in December.
more like
Yeah.
2016 to me than it does 2020, and you're seeing
What time does this election finish at?
About a quarter till next
than what
Monday.
we saw. And as we've been saying, and
I
we've
found
seen
a
this,
cod.
higher turnout was always going to be better for Trump. Not, there's always been this pre-Trump era conventional wisdom used to be Democrats would perform better, but he has the sort of the occasional voter.
Ooh,
And it
who
looks
found
like
Wow,
another?
I can't do fucking anything.
What do you mean?
They come in,
Yeah,
vote,
I mean
Like, I'm
that's how these
waiting-
first
because
ones
there's
are.
100,000
You're just
vote
waiting
gap.
for
I
shit
mean,
to produce and then
the Democratic
kind of
Senate candidates
exploring.
in the blue wall are all embedded better shape right now. than
Oh,
Harris.
Bobby is playing Sid Meier's
Walter,
Civilization 6.
Fucking nerd.
All right, let's see.
Well, one might argue now, if you look at the 3 Trump elections, 1, he obsessively made sure people didn't vote early. 2, he didn't. 1 was at 16, and then it's this one. So you may be onto something. But
How many fucking warriors does this Nazca guy have?
Too many.
Bobby
Creamed him.
Nazca.
Yeah, you keep saying keep docs.
What? I said Nazca.
NASCAR.
Even if you're just adding 50,000 to your voter rolls, well, that's the difference between winning
Blue.
and half the blue wall.
How do I send a delegation of a bomb to Mexico City?
Well, maybe don't say that with the TikTok stream going.
I meant in Civ.
Well,
Wait,
you can't do that.
You can nuke places in Civ.
Who is Ask?
You're gonna have to be more specific.
Ask and you
OSSK
shall
and
receive.
Toko Cat.
Ask and you shall receive, big man.
Ask and Toko Cat.
Wait, look at. I'm gonna stream my game. This is.
Taco Cat?
I accepted your invite, and this is what it gave me.
Al Gore tried to do this. While Bill Clinton's presidency was popular, Bill Clinton the individual was not.
What the
We all know
fuck?
he came up 537
It's Ask
votes.
and Toko Cat.
Yeah, get out of there. Let me send you another. What the fuck? I just sent you to some random person's game.
Who the fuck is Ask and Toko Cat?
Approval rating. He was at 41%. I mean,
Oh,
Walter,
no, my
they
game
gotta
is
be
frozen.
like, who the fuck is Walter?
Yeah.
in a way that
Let me
Well,
read this
the-
private.
we may find out was political.
You should have hit on Toko Cat.
No, and I don't think we're there.
It's Kevin. Is Kevin O'Leary a big conservative?
If they win, it's going to be like this.
I don't know.
No, he's just a realist.
There's this new
Oh.
memo that is out now from the chair of the Harris campaign that was sent to
Interesting.
staffers
I'll
be right back.
from Monica
Leary.
Alba and our team that covers
Living
the
like
Harris camp.
Leary.
And this is exactly the point, right? Which is why I wanted to jump in here on this. She says they say that the closeness of this race is what we prepared for all along. They still see data trickling in from Sunbelt, but all along they knew it was going to be blue. I mean, listen, to a degree, of course,
88% chance he wins.
All right.
Oh, there we go.
Oh, Walter connected.
Pennsylvania overperforming turnout in Philadelphia and some of these
My
areas.
invite worked.
In
Let's
Michigan,
go.
they say there's still a lot of
I'm
Oh,
votes
nice.
to come
goated.
in Wisconsin, there's still a lot of vote remaining.
Got that
Fancy
fancy
General
touch.
Dillon says in this memo, we've been saying for weeks this race may not be called tonight.
Yeah, I apparently have the curse vote that sends you to unsolicited games.
Yeah, purgatory.
Yeah.
In Oregon when the votes are counted.
With Toko Cat.
There's the breakdown right now.
Goddamn Toko Cat.
Hell yeah.
Ask and Taco Cat.
But again, Kamala Harris
Who's
expected win.
Ask?
In our road to 270, you see it there.
That's
what
I'm
Ask?
wondering.
14 for Donald Trump, Harris with 153. The big prizes still no call.
Bro, the AI was doing absolutely nothing.
Can I set my scout to like auto explore, Joe?
Yeah, you hit the plus button.
Those are two states,
Like when
I'm
you
just
click
telling you
on
this, like, right
your
here, I don't
character
see
on
either
the
of those
scout,
two states
there's that
mentioned
plus
here. They do
button
talk
on that
about
bar
Nevada and
of
Arizona
like
it's gonna
the
be, but
actions
the
you can
bottom
do with
line
them.
is they feel like this race is
Where do you
not
get
gonna be
irrigation?
until the early morning hours.
In your tech tree?
Yeah, it's second in your tech tree. You need to get pottery first.
Hattery.
What? I'm gonna set me up a little early, Empire.
So I want to be very cautious in saying this.
I don't believe you.
Tonally, it is fascinating that that is the message that they're
Well,
sending.
not for nothing. They did their last
Choose
rally
production.
for Kamala Harris in Philadelphia on the
Her whole
eve
last
of
day,
the election.
all she did was focus on
Which is
Florida.
exactly
Warrior.
We did it, Joe.
Didn't do that in 2016,
We
right? She was
did
in
it.
Arizona, she was doing Texas, and she
But
sort
the
of
night before
I'm
was in
gonna go
Philly.
see
but they
my
sort of
daughter
didn't do the blue
tomorrow.
one. To their credit,
Tomorrow
I mean,
we're gonna do
she
9/11.
lived in Pennsylvania, but I'll tell you this: we'll see. There's probably a lot of people wondering who should be the running mate, who should be on this Democratic
We
ticket.
had that discussion.
Yeah.
So some people will, if
It'll
she
be-
loses Pennsylvania, there'll be a lot of
Truffles. Luxury resource. Why can't I build...
Shapiro's a very popular Democratic governor who was on the short list.
How do you get truffles?
Savannah Sellers into this. I mean, what
A
are you
farm?
reading out of the exit polls? Are you seeing any trend lines? I know you've got
Children.
You really
It could
looking
be
at voters
irrigation
and
or a
things that are on the
farm.
polls there. What stands
Yeah,
out?
what does it, when you hover over like the resource, what does it say?
It says truffles, luxury resource.
Yeah, so you could just build a farm on them, or build an
I
improvement.
can't build a farm. Doesn't let me build a farm.
I don't believe you.
Do you have it researched yet?
I don't.
Farming?
back in 2020, 64% went
But,
for Biden.
I don't know.
Something that I've been tracking and I've been even watching.
I don't think you research farming. Maybe pottery. I don't know.
Who do people like? The Harris campaign had such
Irrigation,
a robust
maybe?
internal social media play. They had this team of 20-something.
It's I
Fine, I'll
I think
figure
it's
it out.
pottery because pottery allows harvesting of bonus resources improved by farms.
Co-opted that immediately, exactly, which by the way is a compliment to say brat now. But for the former president, there wasn't so much going on internally. It was not.
Yeah, I'm not sure why you wouldn't be able to.
Grassroots organic catch on TikTok. I heard so many young people say to me in a positive way also, he is a meme. His things travel far. It's objectively funny when you see.
You guys are supposed to know this shit.
I just kind of wing it.
There's
straight from and
a barbarian up there.
And we are hearing
Oh,
so much right now.
what the fuck just happened?
In Arizona, Gotti was mentioning that earlier. It's so much. It was because I heard him on a podcast. It was because of this thing I saw on TikTok.
How did we end up on the right side of the map?
That happens. I don't know what changes it.
Voters who were eligible in this age group to vote in 2020 who did not, and they came out tonight to vote.
Oh no, Bobby, Aiken is flooding. Aiken is Aiken.
What the gender breakdown is there too, because this poll with young men, and that was a concerted effort by the Trump campaign, and the Joe Rogan and the
I have two Gen Zers, okay? I have one who votes and one who's going to be voting next year. One in each gender.
He'll be here all week,
I
folks.
see it with their friends. You see it. It's real. This gap. This is not about Trump and Harris. There is a growing cultural gap, if you will, between young men and young women.
I have that number too,
really
if you want it. The gender gap on this: first-time men, Trump 62%, Harris 36%. First-time women, the gap is less here. Trump 46%, Harris 53%.
Yeah,
so that young men turnout is real.
Well, people who thought that young women would be voting in droves for Kamala Harris, especially because of reproductive rights, I mean, that exit poll does not suggest that.
Absolutely.
It doesn't, and this goes back to what Chuck has been saying, which is the person who ultimately winds up winning this war of the sexes is the candidate who does a better job appealing to the weaker gender for them, whoever is weaker for them. And so we've seen Trump not only clearly energize.
Oh, it just switched me
Why
again.
does it keep moving?
Yeah, I just sent my guy 19 turns down the map because it.
Yeah, I do that shit
How
all the
the
time.
fuck do I get out of that?
You click on him and then hit cancel. It'll show in that action bar.
The education gap is also becoming such an interesting storyline here as Chuck talks about kind of a realignment in this moment and where we are. That's another thing to be watching for tonight. Again, it is 11:11 Eastern time, but there's still plenty of vote to come in.
I want to go to Tom right now.
Choose Civic.
Wisconsin looks like 62% of the vote in there. You're picking up some things. Sharon,
yeah, too close to call right now. Trump on top 50%. The difference is 39,000. Remember, the last two elections in Wisconsin, presidential elections, 20,000 votes was the difference.
Why is this guy walking?
Here.
I don't need all
Go
this
back to
fucking
Madison,
action. Just tell me the
capital of
news.
Wisconsin, Dane County. This is also the site of the University of Wisconsin as well. 92% of the vote in.
Choose production.
We last checked in with her, but again, she's slightly underperforming Biden. She still has time to catch up. There's still 8% of the vote that's out. We actually know exactly how much of the vote is out. About
Fill
30,000
policy
votes
slots.
remain there. So maybe she picks up the margins there. We also want to talk about Milwaukee. This is the biggest population center in the entire state of Wisconsin. Right now, 54% of the vote is in. So a lot of that vote is still out. It's probably going to be a little bit later till we can call Milwaukee by itself. Biden was at 69. She's down about 2 to 3 points. Again, this would be concerning for Democrats. But look, there's still a lot of vote out in Milwaukee. Door County, if you've been following the presidential race at all, everyone's been talking about Door County in Wisconsin. It's this peninsula that shoots out into Lake Michigan. The last presidential elections, I should say, they've picked the winner. This is a good sign for Kamala Harris. She's on top there, overperforming Biden.
God, that's fucking annoying.
95% of the vote is in. Again, Door, if we bring it out to past elections, it almost always picks the winner in the state of Wisconsin. So that's a good sign for her because it's a bellwether. I do want to check in some of these Democratic strongholds. Eau Claire, 92% in, kind of performing at the same level as Biden. That's good news for her. She wants to keep it there. We don't have any data there. What else we have? I think here in La Crosse, this is another Democratic stronghold, 92% in. Biden was at 53. She's 55, I should say. She's slightly underperforming. So listen, still a lot of vote let me see how much votes.
Choose
still out. Still about
research. Oh,
40%
there's
of the vote.
irrigation.
But here's what's tough for Democrats in Wisconsin. Of the
Oh, we
battleground
met
states,
another
each of
civilization.
those blue wall states
Hello,
is different.
Pedro.
But of all the battleground states, Wisconsin is the widest. So they can drive up the margins with at least African-American voters and some Latino voters that are going to stay loyal to the Democrats in this election. What they can do, there's about 100,000 college students in the state of Wisconsin, and they usually fare better, much better with those university students. We're going to have to wait and see, as we say right there, too close to call.
All right, we got a big
Rolling.
projection to give right here. This is the Ohio Senate race. It was a hotly contested race. Bernie Moreno, the car dealer, Republican, will pick up that seat, unseating the incumbent Sherrod Brown. This is quite a moment because, barring any unforeseen circumstances, it appears that Republicans, with that victory, will take control of the United States Senate. Again, it's not an official projection at that moment, but if things happen as expected, it would look like a two-seat gain here in the Senate. And so this is a hugely consequential.
Oh, do you need like animal husbandry? Maybe that's it.
Was fighting for his
Possibly.
political life. He's pulled that rabbit out of the hat a few times, but not here tonight.
3 times, Savannah, and he has been someone who's been very adept at straddling that line, reaching out to working class voters throughout his state. His father was a doctor, grew up in.
Oh, I heard that
really
too.
Had that working class appeal.
Yeah, you did.
And yet, this Trump-backed candidate,
Yeah.
Bernie Moreno, a car dealer, able to topple him tonight. Again, we've been looking for ticket splitters. Didn't find one here in the state of Ohio. Again, this in line with what we've seen, which is that ticket splitters have been diminishing.
He only overperformed, Sherrod Brown only overperformed Harris by about 2 points. And he needed to overperform about 4 or 5. But this is no longer about, Democrats knew they probably weren't going to hold the Senate. The question was, can they limit the Republicans to 52? Because if they can limit them to 52, then you can find 2 or 3 seats to pick up in the 2026 midterms. But if it gets to 53 or 54, right, which is very possible tonight. I mean, they got Montana, which Republicans are favored. They've already held their 2 vulnerable seats. Nebraska's sitting out there, and it's really is a coin flip race right now. That's a unique situation. But they could get to 53 or 54, which could put the Senate out of reach for Democrats.
What's
for 4
that?
years.
Gypsum.
So at this point tonight, it's about whether
I believe
Democrats
that's
can
a
hold enough of their
luxury
seats this
resource.
cycle so they
Indeed it
actually
is.
have a shot.
And
at
it's
winning back
like
the Senate
on the
to be
border of
competitive in
another
2026.
Sherrod
city
Brown
state.
way outspent Bernie Moreno in Ohio too. Just
Which
dumped
one?
a ton of money pro-Democratic allies in the state of Ohio. But remember why the Senate matters? Not to give a civics lesson here, right? But the Senate can act in some
Oh, I
ways
see.
as the brakes or the accelerator for whoever ends up in the White House. They can either
Woolen.
get the president's policies moving to a degree if the House is the same party, or not, right? And that's what this comes down to here, is how much, if it is Donald Trump in the White House and a Republican Senate, what could they do for his policies? If it is Kamala Harris in the White House and a Republican Senate, how does that interplay work when it comes to some of the issues?
I have to say, the House is much more important, though.
I need gold.
At
I
this
need
point,
gold.
If the Democrats are not going to win the White House, they have to have that. I mean, if you win the White House, you want your party to have that. If you're going to not have a chamber, don't have the Senate. It's the House you really worry about, because the House has subpoena power. And so if the House is of the same party, you can navigate Washington a lot easier. The Senate's not easy, but you can find bipartisan coalitions in the Senate.
Corey
because
is
what
in the
looks like,
House.
where the House, at this point, whoever wins the presidency, you want your party to have, because if you don't, then it's subpoena, and then you can be tied up. Your entire agenda can get tied up.
But unlike the Senate,
Correct.
we're not talking
Subpoenas.
about the House tonight in almost.
No
The
doubt, we
jerk
might not be
in
talking
my
about the House
peanuts.
until we go to Savannah for Thanksgiving. And even then,
Thank you, thank you.
At your own risk.
This is what the people come for.
But I mean, the House is
boy,
not
do they
expected
come.
to track the presidential. And
Wait.
because of New York and California.
Yes, exactly. And we'll be waiting New York and California. Some of these tight races, it could be weeks. It was weeks in 2020. But I mean, the prospect is there. If are we going to have divided
Oh,
government?
I'm sorry,
As
Pilot.
Americans
I can't
have
really
so
see my
often
TikTok
chosen
chat.
Divided government. They
My
seem to
YouTube is
like it.
blocking it.
Will
Chosen
we
or
have it?
stumbled into it.
Yes.
Well,
Who knows?
and remember, Democrats only need 4 seats to take back control
Let's see.
of
What,
the
do-
House.
what are we seeing
and so
here?
they like their chances there. What's so interesting
Yeah,
is that we're
okay,
covering
I'm
all of these
hearing you
various
out.
battleground states, Pennsylvania, and all of the blue wall states. The House is really going to be fought.
Very good.
and again,
Oh.
could be over a week, if not longer.
Found a bunch of barbarians.
NBC's Garrett Hakey's at Trump headquarters in West Palm Beach, Florida. Garrett, what's the former president doing now? And I'm wondering if there's been any reaction to what appears could be a change of power in the Senate.
Not to that specifically.
What does a
But let me
camp
set the
do?
scene for you here, just to get the lay of the land down here in South Florida, because some of this will matter.
I believe
later
it
on
provides
tonight,
housing
perhaps.
and
We're
food.
in West Palm Beach right now at the convention center, which is the giant party headquarters media center for the Trump campaign tonight. Donald Trump is across the intercoastal waterway at this hour at Mar-a-Lago, his home
fuck
and
it.
private club, where for a portion of
Fuck
the
your
night, he was
luxury
doing, I think, what many people
resources.
sort of imagine candidates do on election night, meeting with advisors, watching the returns come in, checking the numbers.
Is this a fucking volcano that's gonna erupt next to my thing?
Hopefully not.
Let me see.
Party mode already.
Yes, that is a volcano that will erupt next to your thing.
Thanking supporters, participating
really
in
good.
the celebration that has begun among his closest supporters, his family and friends, despite a race that remains uncalled. I'm also told NBC News can
Game's
also
waiting on
report
me. I
that
hit that
he's in
turn.
discussions with his aides and advisors about when he might make the trip across the bridge here to West Palm Beach to give some form of
there's a
speech tonight.
barbarian
Now, we've been
outpost.
asking him about this day after day. Would he declare victory early? Would he rule out the possibility of declaring victory early? We all remember him doing that exactly that in 2020 when so much of the vote remained to be counted. He has refused to take an early declaration of victory off the table, and it's our understanding now that conversations are underway for him to make some kind of address here tonight, regardless of where we are.
Where can you
on the
build a
path to 270
plantation?
votes.
All right, Garrett,
that
thank you so
is
much.
on.
And we're joined now by podcast host John Lovett and Dan Pfeiffer, both White House veterans. I believe we have them right now. Oh, not yet. We're going
What
to go
is
to
that for?
That they're coming up.
We're going to
We'll
go to Peter Alexander.
Peter Alexander for the
Maybe for
interview
like the
from Harris
spices.
headquarters. It sounds like Donald Trump is talking about coming out and saying
I can't
something.
remember what
What are you hearing
plantations
from the
are for.
Harris campaign?
Sugar for sure.
The Pod Save America guys, if they want to go, you'll let
Yeah.
me know when they're ready. But we are waiting to hear
What happened?
from Kamala Harris.
I think for
rice
sugar.
as
This
well.
evening, no indication when that would
Sugar
happen.
and
Some early
rice.
indications that might happen in the course
I think
of
it's
this
just
hour.
a
No confirmation on that at this time. We'll keep
basically
you
a
posted
farm.
as we know. I will
don't think
tell
it
you,
does anything
though, in the course of
too
the last
special.
15
Maybe
minutes,
it gives you
NBC
extra
News did obtain a
food.
memo that was sent out by the
Mhm.
chair of the Harris campaign, Jen O'Malley Dillon, the woman who orchestrated Joe Biden's victory in 2020. This was sent to staff, and it gives you a sense of
I
where
have a
they are
builder
heading into
somewhere?
this evening. They expect nothing will be determined until late into the night, and certainly they say they're going to be at this again tomorrow. But as she notes in this memo again, she says that they have always
I do
said
have a
that the
builder.
clearest path
Okay.
to 270 electoral votes lies through the
I
blue
need
wall
more
states. And here's what she
horses.
says specifically about Pennsylvania. She says that we overperformed turnout expectations in Philadelphia and overperformed in our early vote expectations in Bucks County, one of those key collar counties, those key suburbs of Philadelphia. She says we don't have election day results from Philadelphia, but we do know that we overperformed turnout expectations there and have seen especially high turnout in places with non-white and student
Kinda boxed in here,
populations. One
guys.
thing they're keeping a close eye on right now. About Michigan particularly, they say the city of Detroit won't be reporting out
We'll
until
pave a
roughly
path for you
midnight,
west.
but that they have seen strong turnout from early vote and election day voting in other parts of the state. And finally,
True civic.
in Wisconsin, where they're keeping a close eye on that blue wall, that they do not expect complete results from Wisconsin until tomorrow morning between 3 a.m. and 5 a.m. But the biggest takeaway perhaps from this memo is the sense that as the chips start falling, it appears that they are leaning heavily into the blue wall, which started and may be ending as their best path to victory here. In spite of some numbers that show they still have some ground to make up, there's still a lot of data out there. And that's where, at least according to her memo, which effectively said goodbye to the staff for the night, said we'll do it again late into the night and start again strong in the morning. That's where they are as this night heads toward midnight.
All right, Peter, thank you. Now, without further ado, let's go to the hosts of Pod Save America, Democrats John Lovett and Dan Pfeiffer, both White House veterans. And Dan, I know you to be a number cruncher, and I wonder what you're thinking about the numbers that you're seeing. You just heard what the Harris campaign is saying, but the vibe check is that this path is narrowing significantly and that it's blue wall or bust at this point for Kamala Harris.
Yeah, that seems right. And you look at the numbers, it's very clear that Trump is overperforming in rural counties, and Harris is overperforming in suburban counties. And what is going to be the deciding factor here is primarily going to be what is the turnout and the vote margins coming out of Milwaukee, Philadelphia, and Detroit. And if they are what we think they are, then she has a very clear, albeit narrow, but clear path to be the next president of the United States.
John, let me ask you about what we've been observing. Young voters, particularly
Right,
male
sorry, I'm back.
voters, who seem to be breaking for Trump and him, in fact, winning the youth vote according to our exit polls. Does that surprise you? What's your take on that dynamic?
That would be surprising. I think that's another reason to drink. But I do think that I
You're
think it's
drinking alone,
pretty
John.
early. I think that's fine. That's fine. I think it's pretty early to be drawing conclusions based
dork?
on the exits and trying to figure out what happened with specific.
Do I have that
demographics. I
one
think where we're
podcast
at is
everyone likes?
This was always going to be close. It is
What
close right now.
podcast?
I think there was some hope based on
Pod Save
vibes
America.
that perhaps this wouldn't
Oh.
be as
More
close.
like
based
Pod
on some
sucks
late
ass.
polling and some late momentum and a terrible event in
Bang.
Madison Square Garden.
Bang.
We hope that maybe this
Fucking
night wouldn't
dork.
be as long. And the answer is no. The polls largely were showing a very
That
tight
was
race,
actually
and
so
that's what we're
cringe.
kinda living through.
He's like,
Dan, do you think it
"How
will
you doing over
ultimately
there?"
come down
Oh,
to
well, I'm
Pennsylvania?
drinking.
I mean, that's
Yeah, yeah.
No one laughed.
telegraphed for all of these months.
And she's like, "You're gonna be
It is
drinking
the
alone."
central
He's
state
like, "Yeah,
because
that's
if
fine."
Georgia and North Carolina cheat
Just
us
an
that way, and there's still a lot
absolute
of
nerd
outstanding vote
spaz.
in Georgia. It's once again a narrow path. But if those do not end up in her column, there is no math without Pennsylvania. You can replace Wisconsin with Arizona. You can replace Michigan with Arizona and Wisconsin, but you need Pennsylvania, and so it will come down to
Continent is
All right,
Gondwana.
Dan Pfeiffer, John Levitt, thanks for your time. We'll talk to you soon.
That's
Thank
what
you.
continent this game
And we
says
have
a lot.
another call to make. I believe we're going to get a Washington, state of Washington presidential call. Let's see
State of
where we are.
Washington?
NBC
That's
News
gonna
now
make 'em
projecting that
Yeah.
Kamala Harris will win the 12 electoral votes in the state of Washington. Here's how it breaks down
Fuck
right
Washington.
now. Difference
I
of
actually have legitimate beef with the state of
472,000
Washington.
votes. In the road to 270, that
That
leaves
place
Harris
is
with
such a shithole.
165,
Damn it.
214 for Donald Trump down. Let's go to Republicans' Mike Dubke, White House Communications Director under former President Trump, and Sarah Fagan, a former aide to George W. Bush. Mike, first of all, give me your thoughts here. We've had no calls in battleground states so far. Is this a matter of viewing pieces through a microscope right now to try to understand where this is going?
Well, it sounds that way from the Harris campaign, but I want to stick with the vibe comment that John Levitt just made, because I really do think that what we're seeing now is this coming to fruition, this vibe versus issues election that we've had. The Harris campaign really put on the vibe.
Fucking barbarians already have spearmen.
All of that, and I think the Trump campaign tried to stick to issues: immigration, inflation, instability around the world. And if you look at the exit polls that you all have been talking about today, you really see that Americans think that the country's on the wrong track. We think the economy, we were better off 4 years ago than we are today. And when you look at the way Harris tried to distance herself from Biden, I think this all came down to whether she'd be successful with that, and it looks like she wasn't.
Hey, Mike, let me just ask you just to bear with me for a second, because we have another projection we're going to put up here on the screen. And this is the state of Connecticut. NBC News projecting that Kamala Harris will win in Connecticut when all the votes are counted. 7 electoral votes. There is the breakdown right now, about a 10-point difference between the two of them. And here's where it takes us in the road to 270. Donald Trump standing at 214. Harris now with 172 electoral votes. We'll get back to our conversation. Sarah,
Holy
let me
shit.
turn to you. You've heard a little bit about this
What's holy
memo
shit?
now with this campaign memo. What do you
They're
make of it?
projecting
Well, I
every
think
swing
it's a
state could
campaign
potentially
doing
go to
what it
Trump.
can to try to keep
Holy
hope alive.
shit.
You know, look, I don't see any good news for Democrats.
Minus whatever 3 AM balance I get.
Donald Trump is running about a point or a point and a half ahead of where he was in 2020, and in these counties, in these blue wall counties that
What did I just-
75% of the votes
settler.
in. And Kamala Harris is running behind in these urban areas by 1 or 2 points compared to where President Biden performed. You look at that coupled with Donald Trump's overperformance with Hispanic voters, with young voters. I don't think they have a lot to hang their hat on. It's not over. There's votes to be counted. We should point out that these blue wall states tend to be red mirage. You know, they go red and then they tend to go, the race narrows as these big urban areas come in later. But when you just look at the underperformance of Kamala Harris and the overperformance of Trump, it's going to be pretty hard, I think, for her to catch him.
Yeah, the Harris team is saying they believe they overperformed in Philadelphia. Does that
Look at
give you
that big
pause?
ass forehead. They got Mega Mind on the panel.
Now they're looking, I'm sure, at precinct analysis, and we're
What are you
looking at
watching,
a
Joe?
county total. So we should.
I'm streaming it in Discord.
But
Oh,
Joe
shit.
Biden got 80% of the vote in Philadelphia.
Oh, nice. That's
And,
cool.
She's not running at 80%. I think she's, the last I looked, was at 77 or 78%. So that's a pretty significant difference. When
How many people are watching you on TikTok?
0, 0, and 0 across the board. Fucking
Damn.
Followed
Those people.
Thanks, buddy.
Damn, dude.
Had 140
be claiming they've
total
won certain
on
states yet. We still haven't called
143
any of the
total
battlegrounds here at NBC News. And a reminder, Harris's easiest path is to hold the blue wall. If she wins Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin,
sucks.
remember, she gets to the White House. Even if she loses
bro.
Georgia, North Carolina, the entire Sun Belt,
Holy
she still
shit.
gets there. Let's talk about
Man,
Georgia.
fuck you and your pickleball company.
Yeah.
For NBC News right now.
Don't
91%
say that out loud, Joe. Don't teach
Let's
people.
talk about where the vote
Don't
remains.
teach people about pickleball.
Giant circles, remember,
I don't think they
giant
want to
votes.
learn.
That's the vote that still
I'm gonna kill you, Joe.
outstanding. We're still waiting
okay.
on this vote to be counted, and we know the exact number, or we can estimate the exact
Oh.
number. I think it's going to be about 487,000 votes. There's still almost 500,000 votes out in Georgia, still up for grabs here. Let's make some comparisons here. Remember, I told you Harris has to drive up the vote in the Atlanta metro area. 50% of the vote is going to come from this area right here. First county, Cobb County, she's performing just like where Biden is, slightly better. Fulton County, performing a little bit lower, but slightly, and there's still 7% of the vote out in Fulton, where Atlanta is exactly. Gwinnett County, 80%'s in. Look, she's holding the same marks of where Biden was. She's overperforming in Douglas County as we move further south. Look, she's almost exactly where Biden was all around the ring counties of Atlanta. That's good news and overperforming in Rockdale County. But if Democrats wanted to expand the map, we're not seeing that tonight. A place like Cherokee, we're going to see if they could make inroads there just north of Atlanta. It touches those ring counties. Trump was at 68% in 2020. Tonight he's at 69%, and they've almost got all the vote counted there. I want to move down, though, because there is something interesting happening in the Black Belt of Georgia. I was talking to you guys about the Black Belt of North Carolina earlier and how she was underperforming there. Remember, this was Biden's number. This is her number tonight. Watch as we go around here, okay? These are our counties where it's a majority African American. 52%, 50%.
Dude,
Kamala Harris.
he stuttered so hard. He's talking about majority African Americans, but right before he said that, he said, "These are black."
Down here to Doherty County, she's slightly overperforming Biden there. But again, if she wants to win the state of Georgia, she's got to be doing better than Biden. It seems like she could be doing that in Atlanta. The numbers are good for her right now in the metro region, but it's still really too close for us to call here in Georgia. So guys, I'm going to send it back to you.
Okay, Tom, thank you so much. I want to go to Chuck because, Chuck, we were talking about Donald Trump getting new voters, people that didn't vote in 2020, and those voters breaking for him. And you're seeing some pretty astounding numbers.
Well, you are. You know, it's interesting. Well, first of all, look, Georgia is going to shrink. You got about.
They're shrinking Georgia.
Vote. She's got to win the remaining probably 2-1.
What?
That's like a reasonable thing. I mean, Georgia's probably going to be decided by 4 or 5.
Who's Georgia?
And where the vote is outstanding,
exactly.
you think there's a shot?
I think we will be. I think we might be sticking around Georgia for a little while. Just it does. If you're them, you can't totally write it off. There's a path there. But our pollsters did some noted some comparisons to 2020. Just simply Trump margins. These are not in the battleground states, but it gives you a hint of the possibility Donald Trump could actually win the popular vote if he wins the Electoral College tonight. So, for instance, in Texas, he only won Texas by a little over 5 points in 2020. He's won it by 14 points tonight. In Iowa, it was 8 points. It's nearly 15 points tonight. In Florida, it was 3 points. It's nearly 13 points tonight for Trump. Not only gave you some blue states, Virginia, it was a 10-point Biden victory. It looks like it's going to be somewhere between 2 and 4 this time in Virginia. New Jersey, 15 points Biden. Right now, it's 5 for Harris. Illinois, another state, is little under 10. It was at 17 points for Biden. So Trump has improved his standing in a lot of blue states. We'd seen that in our own polling, but it is why this time we are unlikely to have a split between the popular vote and electoral. Whoever wins the Electoral College is probably going
Oh
to
my
win.
God, how many
Those are pretty
fucking
dramatic
pantheons?
margins. I mean, we're not nitpicking about a point or two here. You're talking with Texas.
Oh, you're founding a religion?
I mean, that's
Apparently.
Do the river one, since you're on a river and you have a lot of rivers near you. So whenever you settle a city, you'll get, the river goddess one is so good.
So I'm getting
Which one is
reaction
that?
from Democratic lawmakers, from Democratic operatives. Some are still saying, "Look,
I
we
don't
could
see
still win
that.
this thing. We
Oh,
can
River
win the
Goddess.
blue wall," and that's absolutely accurate because we're still tracking the vote.
+2 amenities and +2 housing to cities if they have a holy site district adjacent to a river.
This race does not go
That doesn't
Kamala
sound
Harris's
great.
way. This is a moment of reckoning for the Democratic
Housing
Party.
and
This person
amenities
saying
are very
there needs to
important.
be a hard look at what went
Okay.
wrong and potentially.
I mean, you could look at the other
really
shit,
a
but
real
I just
path
think
to
it's
the
super
baton when it
helpful,
comes to
especially early
leadership.
game.
And of course, the attention will turn
Yeah.
to President Biden. And when he stepped aside,
Meow.
72% in our exit polls saying the country
Oh,
is
you're on
headed
the
in
Mississippi
wrong direction.
River.
That's the
How
backdrop
interesting.
to all of this. President Biden
Why are you
and
yelling
this
at me?
immense dissatisfaction with the direction that the country's headed.
Come
So
here,
it
you
could
wanna
be the
get some
Democratic Party
political
was
takes? Come here.
allowed itself to just organize itself being an anti-Trump party, and in some ways so focused on creating an anti-Trump coalition.
Ooh,
they stopped being a political
barbarians.
party, right? To come up with a basic agenda and I, you know, and again, right now, I get what that lawmaker is telling you, because if you look at the last, right, the whole Biden wasn't a pick of the future. It was a whatever you can do for Trump.
All right, we're gonna pause for a moment to welcome back some of our stations on the East Coast.
What are your takes?
It is just past 11:30 here in the East. Welcome back to those viewers rejoining us on this exciting night. I'm Lester Holt.
And I'm Savannah Guthrie. Glad you're along with us. This is NBC's election night coverage, and we've started to fill in that map, but those all-important 7 battlegrounds still in gray. We have not called them yet. We've been getting minute-by-minute projections, all leading up to this road to 270, which is the magic number needed to win the White House. So let's go through some of the boards here. This is Pennsylvania at this hour. 79%
My
of the
God,
vote
this side
in
of the map
too
is
close
really
to
fucking
call. We
crowded.
talked a lot about the different
Yeah, I got
parties
it
and
pretty
when
nice
there's
over
enough
here.
for Kamala
I
Harris
think
to make up where she's lost
I think
some of the
Bobby
rural
got his
areas.
own
Let's go to Michigan,
continent.
too close to call there as well.
Like, I don't even think
but
there's
a
other
lot more
people
votes
on
to
it.
be counted.
Actually,
Hell
there
yeah.
might be, but
Wisconsin,
still.
let's see how much we've got there. About 2/3 of the vote or so. Too close to call. In Georgia, we're getting close to a close there,
I'll
but
do
they do count their votes fast there, and it's 91% in,
Really?
but we will see what happens. Too
You're
close to
welcome.
call. North Carolina, too early to call.
You did me
We
one
will
big favor
wait and
before
see
you
what
go on.
happens there, but
Let
again,
me tell
starting
you.
to see 88% of the vote coming in there. Let's go out west, Arizona, too
Please,
early to call.
no,
Polls
like
closed about
water.
2.5 hours ago there. What looks like we have a projected
Water
winner.
and
This
a
just
pop,
came in
a
right
cold
now.
pop.
Okay, North Carolina, Donald
Please.
Trump is the projected winner. You see the margin there,
You're
136,000.
the
So
best.
Donald Trump improved on his margin by
Holy shit. Donald Trump won North Carolina? I thought North Carolina was blue.
there in North Carolina. That's going to
Donald
be a real
Trump
disappointment
won my heart
for the
and
Kamala
my
Harris.
Yeah,
Holy
historically.
crap! It's Donald
If
Trump.
North Carolina could be
Maybe I
clawed
was
back
just
into the
thinking
blue
about the
column,
Tar
perhaps that would
Heels.
open up other paths for them out west, a Sunbelt path.
What's wrong
It
with
is
the
looking
Tar
like blue
Heels?
wall or
Hello,
bust. That
Peter.
is where it stands
Welcome
right
to
now,
Fortnite.
172 electoral votes for Kamala Harris and Donald Trump in the lead right now.
Let's go to Tom right now. Talk about
Do you
now
have
what this
political
does to
takes for
Kamala
the stream, Kitty Cat?
Harris's paths to victory.
Yeah, let's show you real quick
Are
how
you a
Trump wins, right? How we
Republican
project
or
that he
a
wins.
Democrat?
Robinson right now,
Oh.
64.9%, 30% in. You can see how Trump's overperforming.
That joke
here.
made
As
my
we go
teeth
along
hurt.
rural counties,
Did you hear
that?
You said that joke made my teeth hurt.
Tonight. We'll keep moving along here.
Meow.
50%,
Made Sunshine's teeth hurt
53%.
too.
So Lester, you asked how does this affect him in the race for president? Let's go back out to our big board here, the road to 270. When we started out tonight, right, the paths to victory here. Trump had
She
10,
votes
Harris
for
has
whoever
9. That's
gives
because
her
we
more
just called North
tuna.
Carolina. If we can't even remove it.
Alright,
anymore.
I'm losing
Just know that
followers.
before we called North Carolina, Harris had more paths than Trump
Meow.
did. But this is essentially where we started the night. This is the way it ended in 2020, right?
Nice
People
little
in North
wholesome,
Carolina have won the rest of the
wholesome
battleground states.
hat
But
segment
this
there.
gives the Republicans and former President Trump some hope. We now
Wholesome
move to
100.
Georgia. We're going to be looking at the vote in Georgia. But as Chuck mentioned, very, very close in Georgia, and we're going to be waiting on that
What we
vote,
call
the full vote to come
wholesome
out of
100.
Atlanta in those ring counties right now.
Big,
But a big
big
win for former
chungus,
President
big
Trump. It's the
chungus.
first battleground we're
Where
calling
the
tonight.
fuck are my...
All right, Tom, thanks very much.
Remember, there
Why
was
do
some
all
late
my
polling in
units
this state
fucking
that came just over the
disappear?
weekend that
When I
suggested
was
that perhaps
Searcher.
Kamala
a
Harris
young
was
boy,
surging in North Carolina, that maybe she was making
my father
gains
took
among
me
some
to
of
the
these
city.
voters
that is clearly not turning out to be the case.
See
That
ya.
said, you've seen the reporting from her
Marching
campaign that
band.
they are looking at the all-important blue wall. Of course, the question is, if Georgia goes, and I know you and Chuck were just talking about Georgia, but if Georgia does end up in the red column, it is Pennsylvania, Pennsylvania, Pennsylvania.
Well, to that point, the Secretary of State in Georgia, Brad Raffensperger, who people are familiar with from the last election, has said on the record that Trump has an insurmountable lead in Georgia with the number of votes outstanding. So he's the Secretary of State. I think he knows what he's speaking of, but we will continue to watch.
We've got another race to call, another presidential call. This is in the state of Virginia. This call coming a little later than many people might have expected, but Kamala Harris will win the 13 electoral votes in Virginia. There's the breakdown right now, 134,000 vote difference, 84% of the vote in. That, of course, goes into the Harris column. Here's where that leaves us, the road to 270.
That's fine. I appreciate
Trump
you looking.
with 230 now, 40 from his goal. Harris with 185 electoral votes.
Okay, let's bring Jen Psaki in, former Biden White House press secretary, and Mark Lauder, who was joining us earlier. Jen, we haven't had a chance to talk to you. I mean, look, it's getting to be a narrower path for Kamala Harris, no question about it. It's the blue wall or bust at this point.
It's math.
Yeah, it's math.
Ultimately, look,
Unit
I
needs
think
orders.
The General Mallon Dillon email that NBC News obtained that you've talked about a little bit tells you a lot about where the heads are of the people on the campaign.
This is the chair of the campaign.
The chair of the campaign. She was also the campaign manager. When
Is anyone building the Hanging Gardens?
2020. And basically,
not.
they did not talk
Nope.
about it. I know NBC has not made a call in Georgia, but they did not mention that Georgia is not a part of that email. Neither is North Carolina. You just made a call on that. It's about the blue wall states, and she warns that Arizona and Nevada will take some time. What does become challenging, I think part of the purpose of an email like that is also to buck up the troops inside, the team who's been working so hard for months, that's part of it, and also to send that note to supporters. But yes, it becomes, as the path becomes narrower, there's no more margin for error, or no more margin for something going a different way than you hoped it would. And right now, what the Harris team is doing, which happens on every presidential campaign, as you know as well, is sitting in what you call the boiler room, which is kind of an intense word to use, but that's what it's called. And they're looking at their vote goals in these counties and how the outcome aligns. And you look at everything from, did they get what they needed in the big cities? In Philly, there are some cities that haven't fully come in, so they're waiting for those. But also what the margins are for Trump, which are higher, as you've been reporting, and we've been talking about over on MSNBC, in some of the rural counties, meaning he's getting more votes there that they need to make up for in the cities. So it's a numbers game in each of these states.
But even in reliably blue states, we're seeing narrowing margins. We just saw it in Virginia. We called it. Kamala Harris won it, but I believe by a smaller margin than she did, or that the Democrats did 4 years ago. I want to show Minnesota right now, which we are calling too close to call. And this is a reliably blue state. Let me show you what the numbers look like, the breakdown. Half of the vote in. It's called too close to call. Again, when you see that wide margin, you were thinking, what are you guys talking about? It's because our decision desk is crunching the numbers. They know where those votes have come from, whether they're reliably Trump districts or reliably a Kamala Harris or a Democratic area of the state. And on that basis, they're saying too close to call. Does that surprise you?
Minnesota is a close state. It often is a close state. It's one certainly that the Harris team would love to have been in their win column earlier. But again, I think for them, what becomes harder and harder is as you get more vote total in and the path becomes narrower and narrower and narrower. And that's a bit where they are
By
at
the way,
this moment.
the sitting governor, Tim Walz, on the ticket. Minnesota's governor, Tim
And
Walz.
a pretty popular governor in Minnesota. And there's a lot of things that bend the mind a little bit if you're the Harris team, including that. I don't know that they're overly worried about Minnesota, but certainly, yes, would have liked to have that and Virginia in their win column earlier.
I've heard a lot from people on the left who have asked over the last several weeks, how can this be a tie?
How do I
What's your
increase
answer?
my production in a certain city?
I mean, I think obviously,
What city?
My Boston one. Everything is
two-thirds of the American people think the
blue.
country's on the wrong track.
Build a
the
farm on that
immigration,
wheat.
all of the issues and kind of
Build a
general
pasture for
polling
those
would suggest that
horses.
This would be a runaway.
So I need a
for
builder,
Republican
huh?
Or for
Yeah.
the non-party in power.
And then I
I think
can.
it's not. I think there's
Then once I
obviously a lot
start
Any other
building up
Republicans
city, I
are
can
on the
build
ticket?
things
Do you
faster.
have a much
I can
greater
produce things
margins
faster.
in
Yep.
terms of a Republican victory?
That's difficult to answer because Donald Trump brings out such a passionate base where you might have a problem getting that overperformance in rural areas because he is so animating, especially on the right. Now, he's equally animating on the left, which turns out...
The hell just happened?
Might get suburban women on the side of a different kind of Republican.
Jen, has the conversation begun
Scout.
about Joe Biden and about the decision to ask him to step aside?
It will begin. It will begin depending on the outcome. And obviously, there hasn't been a race called yet. If this is not a Harris win, that will certainly be part of the discussion. She's run a campaign over the course of 107 days. That is not something we've seen in history. And there'll be lots of questions about exactly that, the timing.
I'm doing the great
and
bath.
the impact of that.
Well, Chuck was bringing up the history. I mean, in terms of vice presidents trying to win the
Fuck was
presidency
that? What's that
with
noise?
a unpopular president.
Someone found a
He said
natural
it's
wonder.
bordering on
Found Halambaye.
And this gets back to something that we talked about. The favorability rating
Okay.
for President Biden is low, and you look at some of these numbers on how people feel about the country right now, and about 3 in 4 Americans in the exit polling say they feel angry or dissatisfied, and that is
Oh
something
shit,
that
it's
may end up being
9:44. I
critical in
gotta
this
get
race
off
as well.
here.
And one of the things that I think
What
is so
the
notable
hell?
heading into tonight, I think one of the big questions, would the economy be the top issue, as Mark is talking about, or would reproductive rights, given that abortion is on the ballot in 10 different states, would that be the biggest energizing factor tonight? What we are seeing is that right now it seems like the economy and immigration continue to be the most motivating factors for people.
And I'm almost interested to see, though, because we did see, especially using Florida as the example, it was not close in Florida, whether at the presidential level or with the Senate. But at the same time, they're sending Rick Scott and Donald Trump. Obviously, they barely defeated a constitutional amendment on abortion. So they almost, like we would say split ticket voting with Senate and Congress and president. They kind of split their ticket going, no, I don't like this, but I do like them.
And that's not something that is captured necessarily, because polling doesn't function this way in polling about abortion rights, right? That there are people who could vote for Trump and also vote for protecting abortion rights. Arizona is another interesting state to watch on that front, as you know, Arizona native, because I talked to Senator, or maybe we'll see, Congressman Gallego the other night, and there are people who could be Gallego, Trump, abortion rights voters, which bends
People
the mind
have
a little bit,
nuanced
but that's why maybe we don't
opinions.
entirely understand how the
Yeah,
electorate
no.
comes down on these issues.
Well,
It
maybe
feels
people
conflicting, but maybe it's not for them.
neatly categorized as
That's
as
groundbreaking.
political journalists would
Groundbreaking.
like to believe. Well, we're just moments away from midnight here in the East Coast. What are you guys doing
Yummy.
tomorrow? The battleground states, they have not been carved yet. Stay with us. We will be right back after a quick break.
Ground baking.
Ground baking. Get this shitty lo-fi out of here.
Get this shit off me. Yeah.
Hey.
Oh, why did I do that, moron?
Oh, easy there, fella. You'll be alright. Yeah?
What the fuck?
Yeah. Ground bacon.
Closer to the Gaza border. The story of resilience and hope. Please take care of yourself and each other.
Well, election night is about to be election morning as we creep up on midnight on the East Coast. Glad you're with us. We are moments away from getting more polls, more vote, and more closings as we get new numbers minute by minute. And we're watching not just the presidential race, but of course, we're watching the balance of power. The United States Senate, the United States House of Representatives, also up for grabs tonight. We've got Kristen Walker keeping an eye on that. We just in the last hour or so made a crucial Senate call in Ohio. I know you've got some results.
Absolutely. So we called Ohio for the
Absolutely.
Republicans. Let's head over to Pennsylvania. Just as we await the presidential
Sly.
Yeah, exactly. I was gonna say it's like Sheldon or whatever the fuck that guy's name is in Sly Cooper.
So when you do a trade route, you want it longer?
You get more gold per turn if it's longer, I believe. But you do want to establish like your close trade routes first.
Looking for another turn.
Okay.
She is trying to fend off a challenge.
You'll get like it'll increase your era score for doing like for making trading posts.
Sorry, Michigan. We're going to go to Michigan
And you do
first.
that
Alyssa
by
Slotkin trying to win a
doing a
Senate seat
successful
against
trade.
Mike Rogers.
Mhm.
This race also too close to call. And now let's go to Montana. This is one of the seats that Republicans are eyeing as a potential pickup. John Tester looking for a fourth term against Tim Shee. This race too early to call. Let's take a look at the map. Overall, again, Republicans have now.
I get a governor appointment.
More like Tim
It's a
He.
very good night for them, potentially putting them on the path to take back the Senate.
Well, if everything holds and they had a two-seat net gain, they would take control of the Senate. There's one race out there that's an odd one because you have
I was waiting for it. It was a slow burn. I knew it'd be coming.
up against an independent Dan Osborne, who is interesting. If you read into his
aggressive bang
his
that
views,
got
Yeah, well, it needed to be done.
he's got an array of views. He calls himself independent. He appears to be. He says he won't caucus with either side, and
He
he's
won't
giving her a
caucus
run
with
there
either
in
side.
Nebraska.
Giving her
Just
a
pick
run.
I felt
one,
the
brother.
emotion.
Tightened in recent days, and I think you hit the nail on the head with what makes this so complicated and fascinating. He's saying he's not going to caucus with the Democrats. So what exactly does that mean?
Oh, he's not
Independent
caucusing with the
Senator Bernie Sanders,
Democrat.
for example, he does caucus with the Democrats just to give people a
Bobby,
sense
is
of
it
what
caucusing
that
I wouldn't be
looks
either.
like
Activity?
functionally speaking. So we
Huh?
continue to watch
Is it
that race very
caucusing your
closely.
favorite
All right, well, let's
activity?
take a moment
Yeah.
right here. We want to let some of our other
Fucking
shows
Election
catch
alert.
up.
Election alert.
Let's look at the road
Oh,
to
damn.
270, and we will wait a few moments and let some other stations join us.
What do you mean let some other stations join us?
Yeah, what they baited us. What?
We have an alert.
Nothing's
here. We're going
happening.
to commercial.
The map stands at this time, about 10 minutes till midnight here on the East Coast, and we've got a lot to get to. We want to go to Sandbrook and Asheville, North Carolina. Of course, the western part of North Carolina, hard hit by Hurricane Helene. We've got, if you're just joining us, we've made a projection in North Carolina. Donald Trump will keep North Carolina in the
Can
win
hear the
column, which
enthusiasm in her voice.
significantly narrows the potential paths for Kamala Harris to take the presidency. We've also had a governor's race decided there. Sam, what you got?
Yeah, that's very apropos, actually, Savannah. I'm going to talk about the governor's race in a second, but a few reflections here. First, the Democratic strongholds in North Carolina, Buncombe County and Asheville being one of them, Mecklenburg with Charlotte, of course, and Wake and Raleigh were almost identical in terms of the splits. 60-38 for Democrat versus Republican here, 66%, I believe, in Mecklenburg and Charlotte, 63% in Wake. That's almost identical to what it was 4 years ago, but it's the margins in the rural parts of the state that really drove this victory, at least by a couple of percentage points for Trump, which sounds pretty familiar. Tom was talking about that a second ago. That's thought one. Thought two is the Democratic race. You know, the governor's race, excuse me, there was a lot of thoughts about split tickets and whether Mark Robinson would be potentially
What does the
tracking
culture do
down
for me
President
again?
Trump or even affecting his
Expand your
down-ballot races.
borders.
We
It's
have
also
updates
a way
here.
of
It's
winning.
not just Mark Robinson losing convincingly to Josh Stein, 55 to 39% with 85% or so of the votes in so far, but it's also the lieutenant governor's race. The Democrat up a couple percentage points there, Rachel Hunt. Jeff Jackson, the AG, he's up a couple percentage points over his Republican opponent. So you're seeing truly Republican or voters here in North Carolina going across the board for statewide Democrats and then also voting for Donald Trump. So we're seeing that sort of as a microcosm of this overall picture. And then lastly, you have roughly 37% of the electorate in North Carolina that is unassigned, right? Not Democratic, not Republican. Democrats, registered Democrats in the state had gone down about 80,000 or so, I believe, votes from the previous election. Republicans had gained 100,000 plus registered voters, but the reality here is now 400,000 new unaffiliated voters, and we're wondering where will they fall? What is the fault line going to be for those folks, especially these hundreds of thousands that are moving in from out of state? North Carolina gained the third most amount of people post-pandemic after Texas and Florida. How would they play out, especially in the suburbs of these large, Democratic cities, by and large? And what we're finding out right now is that the exurbs did really lean more Trump, and that a lot of these folks in the unidentified category are going more red than blue, at least in this election. That's what the early results appear to show, Savannah.
All right, Sam Brock in Asheville for us. Thank you. Let's go over to Tom Yamas, who's looking at Minnesota. We were just talking about Governor Walz, the sitting governor, on the top of the ticket here, and it's too close to call.
Too close to call right now. Democrats, though, are okay with this margin right now. About 50% of the vote is still out. This is how it ended up in 2020. You can see Harris is overperforming slightly. Biden right here. I wanted to look at Minneapolis, Hennepin County. This is the largest county in all of Minnesota. She's doing fine. She's tracking just like Biden did. So this is not really a worry for them. I did want to show you something, though. Blue Earth County, okay? So this is a county that Trump is on top right now. Biden won it in 2020. Why do I want to show you Blue Earth County? Well, besides having the coolest name in the entire country for a county, this is where Governor Tim Walz is from. This is where he taught with his wife. This is where Coach Walz is from. Right
That's
now,
wild.
Republicans are winning his county. It just goes to show when you talk about how Trump may or may not win this election, he's driving up votes in rural areas. I'll show you another one, Stearns County, which actually has a large Somali American population. 95% of the vote in, he's overperforming there. So again, Minnesota, it doesn't look like it's in trouble for Democrats right now, so 50% of the vote is out. But when we look at those rural counties, he's overperforming even in a place where Governor Tim Walz is from. Guys?
All right, Tom, thanks very much. Let's bring in NBC's Blaine
Good shit
Alexander,
on Tim Walz.
who was in the Atlanta area tonight with some
Let's bring
developing
in David
news.
Blaine.
Well,
better-
for magic tricks.
You better
Yeah.
quiet. You better quiet down over there. He's gonna have AOC run a mean pick six on you.
Before I say them, I want to make it clear, NBC News is still characterizing Georgia as too close to call. But I want to let you know what Raffensperger said not too long ago in a news conference. He said that he believes, looking at the numbers, Donald J. Trump
I actually
has
saw
quote,
David Blaine
insurmountable lead
submerge
with
himself
the number of votes outstanding.
and
He
locked
later
himself
goes
in
on
a,
to say,
a water
"It looks like
tank.
this is pretty much done." And then
In
says,
real
quote,
life.
I think the results are pretty well baked
In real life?
based on where
Yeah.
the votes are right now.
With my
He's
own
talking about
eyes.
the state of Georgia.
Yeah, did you
Now,
put him
again,
in there?
NBC News still characterizing this
Yeah.
as too close to call, but
But
we're talking
that
with
wasn't
Brad
nice of
Raffensperger,
you.
of course. He
Yeah,
is
what the
in the
hell,
control
man?
center in
Unfortunately,
his,
he figured out how to
Secretary of
get
State's office,
out.
watching
He
those results
escaped?
come in, watching
Yeah.
the numbers, and also where those votes are coming in as well. Now, I've spent the evening talking to some of my Republican sources throughout the state, and I asked them the question. I said, one, how are they feeling? They were
Such
all
an idiot.
optimistic. But I
Couldn't
said,
even settle
if there is a lead from Donald Trump winning here in Georgia, what would be different from 2020? Of course, we all know that Georgia kind of shocked so many people around the country 4 years ago by flipping blue and helping send Joe Biden to the White House. But they said, again, across the board this time, that it was the push toward early voting by Republicans that they believe has really made a difference in the Peach State this time around. You remember 4 years ago, Donald Trump was really waving people off from voting early, telling them to go on Election Day. This time we've seen a very different message. His surrogates have been preaching a very different message. Even Governor Brian Kemp and other top Republicans in the state have been pushing that early voting message. When I spoke with one Republican source earlier tonight, he said, looking at early voting, he was optimistic. Also, the fact that Republicans tend to turn out more on election
Who was
day,
like
he was feeling
dropping
good
metal
about the way
sheets in the
things were going
background
there
of
in the
this
state as well.
interview?
So several sources telling me they believe that
Oh, I think they're in like a factory or
All
something.
right, Blaine Alexander, thanks very much. I was going down as we...
A baby
There
oil
must be in a
factory?
there must be in a sheet metal factory.
Is it in Diddy's house?
Immigration was number
Yeah, they're in the
4.
sheet.
It might
factory
be.
And that was
right
Donald
now.
Trump's closing message, right? I mean, it was his message since he's been in the race. Think about his biggest day one policy priority, mass deportations. He's talked again and again with very few specifics on how that would be implemented about deporting people who have come into this country illegally here. It's always been a big issue for him, dating back something like 8 years now, 4th on the exit poll list. But look what was up there at number 2, the economy. And remember, just because a candidate were to win on the top issue, which this year, based on the exit polls now, is state of democracy, doesn't mean they're going to win overall. And state of democracy is complicated as the top issue because Republicans and Democrats see it different ways.
Yeah, both sides think there's a threat to democracy for different reasons. Can we go over to Tom Yamas? He's been pacing over there by the Georgia map. Because it's interesting. I mean, we have the Secretary of State, Brad Raffensperger, a Republican, but who has certainly shown his independence, saying that Trump has an insurmountable lead. I believe you and Chuck have said there's still some vote out there. It's not over yet. What do you see?
I'm going to give you point counterpoint. First off, let's see where that remaining vote is so far. Again, the giant bubbles, that's where the vote still needs to be counted. It's all over the Atlanta metro region. This is where Democrats are going to run up the score. This is where their base is, where they've been able to expand. So I'm going to click on a county here, like County, to bring it out to compare to Joe Biden in 2020. Remember, she wants to perform over or at where Biden is right now to kind of see where her watermarks are. I'm going to highlight this so you guys can see the numbers to follow. Remember, on the left-hand side, she wants to be at where he is or higher. So let's see where we're at here. Fulton County, 71-72, slightly under. We move over to Gwinnett. A little bit under, you know. 73, she's overperforming in Rockdale County.
I'm gonna build a holy site.
Here, a little bit under. We come over to Douglas County. She's overperforming. But here's the flip side of all this. Let's throw a dart to the east side of Georgia.
Don't do that. You're gonna
Any
hurt
county,
someone.
I'm gonna pick a random county. Look how Trump's overperforming.
No darts.
68% to 71. Again, I'm gonna just touch
Let's throw a
random counties
dart.
here. 65, 69.
I'm gonna throw a dart straight up in the air.
Any county I touch.
See what happens.
First one to leave is a chicken.
Actually, any county you come here in rural Georgia, he's flipping all these counties. And like Jim Psaki just said, it's math.
Like
Can they run
Jim
up the score
Psaki
here?
just said.
Is this what the Secretary of State is talking about, that the numbers are so high in the rural counties, Democrats won't catch them in the Atlanta metro region, but there's still a lot of vote out in this area. So
Alerta. Alerta.
Election alert.
Okay, where you have
Breaking news. It is
Oh,
11 p.m.
I forgot Hawaii was a state.
Midnight in the East Coast, and we await the results from Hawaii. The polls close there in about 10 seconds from now, so we'll take a pause here so our other stations can join us or head to their local news.
Breaking. We are once again heading to commercial.
And as we hit the midnight hour here in the East, the NBC News now making a projection in the state of Hawaii that Kamala Harris will win those 4 electoral votes in Hawaii. That's the only poll closing at the midnight hour here. The road to 270, Harris now with 189, Donald Trump still leading with 230 electoral votes.
All right, we've got quite a few battlegrounds still pending tonight. Pennsylvania, the biggest prize, 84% of the vote in
Nebraska living out.
Same story. Here we go. 75% of the vote in, a difference of 87,000 votes. Michigan, too close to call at this hour as well. Midnight on the East Coast. 15 votes up for grabs. They're too close. Arizona, too early to call. Just been counting for about 3 hours now. Out west in Nevada, also too early to call. And in Minnesota, we have too close to call. Democrats still feeling very good about their prospects there, but the margins are not at a place where we are ready
Choose
to call
research.
that. Georgia, too close to call at this hour, too. We just discussed that. So that might be a ray of light for Kamala Harris, or perhaps a very
Bunch of banging,
a
so I'm not
narrowing
sure what
of
that is.
her path to victory. We should mention, Tom, we have called North Carolina. That was the first battleground to call, and it stays in the red column for Donald Trump.
Yeah, and I want to go through Pennsylvania now because we're starting to get more vote in Pennsylvania, and I want to focus on the east side of Pennsylvania here. This is 2024 right now. Look, a lot of the vote is still out, but let me show you 2020. You can see how much of this section was blue in 2020. Again, Biden won these counties. Now this is 2024. He's flipping counties like Monroe. Again, it's about a 200 vote difference there, so we can't really put too much in that, but he's ahead. Northampton County, remember, this is the one that has picked the president, or at least picked the winner of Pennsylvania, going back to the Kennedy years. This is Easton. This is a fast-growing area, suburbs. It used to be the people that used to work at Bethlehem Steel. It's now changing. Again, fast-growing suburbs in south-central Pennsylvania. 52%, he's on top. Again, a reminder here, this is a county that Biden won in 2020. And this is new right now. This is Bucks County. 56% in. Still a lot of the vote is out. There's only about a 400 vote difference there. We're still waiting on 183,000 votes, so Republicans can't really draw too much out of this. But Democrats would rather these counties were all blue. Let's move a little further south around the collar counties of Philadelphia here. Montgomery County, this is where Governor Shapiro is from, 61%. Performing slightly under Joe Biden, but not too bad. Chester County, 58 to 54. That's a bigger gap there. Again, remember, Joe Biden wins Pennsylvania because he does better than Hillary Clinton in those suburbs around Philadelphia. And let's take a look at Philadelphia right now. Okay, 81 for Biden, 77 for Kamala Harris. There's still about 30% of the vote is out.
I have
But again, these
returned.
aren't the
Did I
trend
miss
lines
anything?
that Democrats are going to want to see. Look, it could all change
No.
when that vote comes in. This is where we are right now. This is a snapshot in time. It could all change. Erie County is another swing county that we're watching. About 75% of the vote is in. She's overperforming Biden there. That's a good sign for her, especially in Western PA, where Democrats knew they were going to have some trouble because of the issue of fracking. And let's look at Allegheny County real quick. This is Pittsburgh. 94% of the vote is in, and she's about at the same mark where Biden is. That's where we stand right now, guys, in Pennsylvania.
How about Wisconsin? Can you do Door County? Because as you well know, fun fact alert, Door County has, do you like the fun fact alert? It's picked the president the last 6 elections.
Yeah, so right now, if that's what you're betting on, Door County is blue. Democrats are on top there. But look, guys, this is a very small number. Door County is not a big county, but it's one that all the political watchers look at because it usually picks the winner almost always of the statewide race in Wisconsin. Right now it's blue. That's a great sign for Democrats. I'm going to look at another one like I mentioned, Sauk County. This is another one that usually picks the winner. Trump is on top here. Biden won it in 2020, so he's really overperforming, going from 48 to 52. But again, there's still about 30% of the vote that's out there. So we got to wait and see. The big ones we're watching in Wisconsin, as you know, Savannah, Dane County, University
This
of
guy
Wisconsin
getting
here,
potty
the
breaks?
fastest growing
Like,
area
what the
of
hell?
state. 75%. She's slightly underperforming.
This guy
But
is
again,
just
she
standing
has
at the
to turn
board.
out in these cities because, like the other
No,
battleground
they
states,
cut
I
his
should say,
mic and go,
unlike
"Stand
the
the
other
fuck
battleground
over
states,
there!"
there are not large minority groups in Wisconsin. It's the widest of all the battleground states. And then Milwaukee.
Get out of the
again,
shot.
We're going to wait till
And then he
late
has
to
to
get
walk
all
all
the
the
vote
way
in
back
Milwaukee. She's at
when he needs
66%.
to
4
talk
years
about more
ago,
counties.
Joe Biden won Milwaukee, and he won the state of Wisconsin with 69%. She's going to have to turn up that vote and hope her voters show up. Guys?
Yeah. We got a lot of vote to count there, though, in Wisconsin.
You could call it the Battle of the Bellwethers, if that's what you're looking at here. I also think Bucks County, I will take my Bucks County native privilege as somebody who grew up there. It's an interesting one because you've got lower Bucks, central Bucks, upper Bucks, and it looks different in some of those areas. You also have
Sorry,
plenty of
it's after
Starbucks.
midnight. It happens.
Here it comes. I love it. Get the M&Ms ready, too.
Yes.
But it looks different than like Montgomery County, Delaware County demographically here. And I was in touch with a good Republican source there who thinks that Donald Trump is going to do better. And we're seeing it, starting to see it in some of these numbers in Bucks than he did in 2020. That said, remember, this was a +4 county for Joe Biden back in 2020. It is represented by a Republican in Congress. So it's one of these places very, very swingy and a place that a lot of folks are watching. And I see you nodding your head, Jen.
Yeah, well, I did not grow up in Bucks County, but I've spent a lot of time thinking about Bucks County over the course of many years in politics. You know, looking at county, as Tom was going through it, one of the things that we're seeing over and over again is that she's underperforming where Biden was in 2020. It doesn't mean that's where Biden would have performed, where he's still the nominee, but it does, and that's not just in Pennsylvania, where you're seeing it in Wisconsin, you're seeing it in other places. One of the things as we've watched this results that I've been thinking about that Democrats will have to think about, depending on what happens here, is there's been a realignment of states Democrats focus on. And, you know, Georgia and North Carolina are in many ways like baby blue. And I mean that because they've only been blue for one cycle, right? So they've done that because they're organizing on the ground, but they're not reliably blue. And the problem is Ohio and Florida are gone.
Brain rot from hearing the word
baby
blue.
blue in 2008 and not
Yeah.
since.
It hasn't been since, so that's I don't know what color it is. It's lavender. So yes, exactly. So I think one of the things that they will need to think about, regardless of the outcome, is where the states are that they're going to play. They would love to have Texas, of course. Texas didn't turn out for them to work out. Maybe it wouldn't for 8 years, but with states off the map, it's like, is it Georgia and North Carolina? Are there places they need to invest? That's one of the challenges too, I think.
Point, I'm getting an increasing number of texts from Democratic sources who are looking at these.
Someone just open up a soda.
Meeting her benchmarks in these various counties where she
Jesus, you hear that from
really
fucking
starting
3
to take
miles
that
away?
reflective tone of Democrats and thinking about the
Yeah,
next
it
election
distracted
cycle.
the
We need to
lady
think
in the
about how to
pink.
better meet voters
I heard like a can opening, and then she just looks off to the side.
The fact that this is such a fight
Some
for them,
fucking
the
boom
fact that
mic
this is
holder
a tied
opening a
race,
Fresca.
also taking a step back, voters saying
Island.
so far at least
Fresca.
they like Trump.
I don't know why that makes it funnier.
Earlier days in politics, after Republicans lost to Barack Obama, there was a famous autopsy.
Anthony the other day was just going on about how he loved Fresca.
Gave some tough love to Republicans, saying,
Well,
"Listen,
Fresca's
this
good
country
shit.
is changing.
Yeah,
Fresca's
Fresca's
good.
gonna cause me cancer, but you know what? I don't give a shit.
It's gonna cause me cancer,
How
boyo.
interesting that we actually are seeing
Good for
tonight
you.
Donald Trump
I don't
getting
give one
more of
fuck.
the Latino vote. We'll see if
Bang.
he got a better
Bang.
share of the black vote. I don't think we've seen that in the exit polls yet. But
Nick, I
you're starting
just
to see that.
ordered
That
a
is
Hamilton
true. And
Beach
I also,
crock
though, will
pot, so you're
say
gonna have to tell me what kind of
wasn't a
crock pot meals I'm gonna
policy,
start making.
campaign, right? There weren't policy proposals that were dueling.
What?
To me, it seems much more
Aren't you,
cultural.
aren't
what
you
you're
the king?
seeing
Aren't you the
was
king of the
that,
crock pot?
for Democrats. That is a harder thing to grapple
Riveting
with. That's my
election
point.
details.
It takes a lot of
Incoming.
deep
Yeah.
soul searching. Again, we don't know what the outcome is going to
The
be.
state of
But
Anthony
if you
has
look again to the breakdown,
crock pot.
college versus non-college educated, rural versus urban, those
Have
are
you
big
guys ever had
cultural issues
Heavenly
that are
Hunks
beyond whether
organic
somebody has an
oatmeal?
81
What kind of
page
gay
plan
pornos
versus
are you
where the plan
reading?
is. And
What
that's
are
the
you
big
talking
Yeah, they're
about?
delicious. Dude, they fucking rock so hard. I had some today and I instantly ordered a bunch.
Yeah, you had a bunch of heavenly hunks, did you?
Oh,
No.
so
Being the
good.
incumbent president, he was
So
running on
good.
his record primarily prior to COVID and reminding people, whether it was on the immigration,
What
the economy.
to
But
buy?
I remember when I was on the 2020 campaign prior to the pandemic, I think we were down for a Democrat debate in Atlanta, and an African American gentleman came up to me and like looked around, said, "I like your guy because everybody's got work and our paychecks are going up." Now, COVID scrambled everything, but I think a lot of people, especially in those communities that are moving over, they're doing it based off of, well, I remember whether it was the border was secure, the economy was better, prices were lower.
You're
under
sending
Donald
links
Trump.
to the
So
heavhenly
it was an
hunks.
incumbent campaign without being the
I'm
incumbent.
gonna open this to that fucking big black dude sitting at the edge of his bed.
It isn't a revisionist. So to me, that still is a
His dick
messaging
is like
cultural
a
thing and not
foot long.
actually a policy debate.
You never
Oh,
seen that pic?
OG
Bob?
Mudbone?
No, he wasn't OG Mudbone, and I'm ashamed.
I think
I'm ashamed to know the difference.
I know the picture you're talking about. That one was going around the airdrop quite a bit in high school.
Every time a new result is announced on a screen behind me, there are huge cheers from a crowd that has been filing in here, drinking beer, wine, and cocktails for some time now and is ready to celebrate. And I'll just say, anecdotally, it is a younger crowd. It is a younger crowd than other election nights I've covered, other Republican events that I've covered. And I think it reflects something that we've seen in the exit polls, this so-called shift of the bro vote in particular towards Donald Trump, the young
Shift of the
man
bro
who he
vote.
has put so central in this
Yeah.
campaign. You know, I think about the fact that just today, when he was voting, he was asked
we
by
voting
another
for
reporter
Natty
about what he
Lights
thought
and
one of the most
Sims?
important moments of this campaign was, and he mentioned Joe Rogan, the podcaster.
Better
the fact
be.
that he did that podcast interview, and then subsequently got
Democracy is on
Rogan's
the
endorsement,
ballot.
which he made a big part of his closing remarks just last night. Feels
Where
like
the
a week ago
fuck
now.
did my scout go?
Trump is talking to a different segment of America and has created a different electorate for Republicans than has existed in any other Republican race that I've covered. It's reflected in this room. I think we're seeing it reflected in the states he's putting together, just as you guys were just discussing about kind of what states are in play, what the map is going to look like now, and potentially for cycles in the future.
All right, Garrett, thank you. I want to go over to
Hey,
Peter
Peter.
Alexander, your counterpart over at Kamala Harris headquarters in
Yo, this guy's
Washington,
hair on
D.C.
Fox
So
News
what
is
is new
fucking
there?
chaotic. This is out of the world nuts.
Well, you can hear the music blaring, but
Oh
within
my
the crowd
god.
right now, it's pretty silent. A lot
This
of
guy
people
looks like the
saw
voice
faces
actor
over
that
the course of
plays
this evening. They've been playing as the returns
Hey
were coming in
Peter.
on one of the
I don't remember
Joe
this name.
Swanson.
Joe Swanson.
They weren't the returns that most of the
He
people
kind of
wanted.
does look like the guy who
Wanted,
plays
so you
Joe
started
Swanson.
hearing, several
I want to
dozen
hear him
people
go.
start chanting, music. They muted the TV and blasted some music so they could sort of lift the spirits
Yeah.
of some of the folks here this evening. I'll tell you, based on an attendee who was at one of the Harris events taking place at a hotel not far from here. The situation there, the scene was described as that of a funeral right now. Now, that doesn't mean this thing is over, but it does give you a sense of the way people are feeling right now. I was with Kamala Harris just yesterday as she was traveling through Pennsylvania at that late
Dude,
night event.
that,
Actually, it was just
me
24
saying
hours
that
ago that she was
over
with
and over
Ricky
again
Martin, Oprah Winfrey,
and doing the
said
bullfrog
tens of
impression
thousands gathered, the
literally
momentum
made
is
me and
on
my
our
girlfriend
side, but
fight
clearly
like 3 months
there was a
ago.
different message being communicated now in the form form of that document.
He got so fucking mad at me.
Sent by the campaign chair, Jen O'Malley Dillon, saying basically that we always knew this race was going to be tight, and increasingly it appears that they believe the blue wall states are their best path going forward at this time. That's what it seems to be the way this
Holy shit, the game ends at 250 turns.
Well, unless someone else wins. That's just the cutoff.
10% there.
The next couple of hours, we'll let you know.
Jen, how important are notes like that? Not for our consumption, but for the consumption of the campaign.
Hugely important.
Nick,
I think
hit
people
fucking
forget,
go.
I've been on winning presidential campaigns and losing ones.
I was
so
doing
everyone wins,
things.
just to state the obvious.
Yeah, you had to follow the, or you had to found the city of Un.
Team that has been many of them through a massive transition just 107 days ago, where many of them signed up to work for somebody slightly different.
Breaking
and Joe
the
Biden,
state of Un.
you know, it's
has
been
gone blue.
they've been working 20 hours a day. They've been eating bad pizza, drinking bad beer, all of the things, and it's just to keep them rolling,
But at a
keep
moment
them
like
going.
this, but a moment like this, now we know earlier in the evening we were trying to keep them.
They
in
got
line.
the ambulances pulling up to the grocery store outside my building.
You don't.
No.
You need to keep the campaign team.
Dude, there's always emergency vehicles going by my house on Columbia over here.
Oh fuck, they got the fire department coming in now too.
To elect Kamala Harris. They don't have control,
Because
but
it's the only
has not
bridge
happened
over
yet,
the train
and so
tracks.
they need to keep them
You
all
are
their
just
spirits up.
paint the
When you
picture.
say the end hasn't happened yet. I mean, do you still hold out?
Ah, motherfucker. I have to kill this guy.
I think it becomes, as I said earlier, more and more challenging as more results come in, and you see that the blue wall looks like the primary possible path, and as you see her underperforming Biden in a number of these counties, that makes it more challenging. Now, there are still, if you talk to Democrats, which I have, they believe there are votes that are still coming in Philadelphia. There are still votes coming in cities. That's often how these nights go. So I'm a believer you got to wait until you know. That's what happens internally here as well. But yes, if you're on the campaign right now, you're feeling pretty down because there are places you wanted to have in your win column to give you more space and breathing room, and you don't have them in this moment.
As we talk about this idea of the Democratic brand, Jen, and as you've been having this conversation here, I just want to throw out a data point to the table here, because there is a ballot initiative that has just passed in a state that enshrines a right to paid sick leave and a higher minimum wage, and it passed with 59% support. If I were to say that, maybe you'd say blue state probably, right?
California, right?
Missouri, right? A state that we called almost right away for former President Trump here, which I think speaks to what you're getting at here, this idea of a realignment in this moment. You've talked about it. Chuck's talked about it. We've had that conversation here at the table.
I also think Hallie had the opportunity to interview Vice President Kamala Harris.
Joe
We asked her
Swanson
a
for
fascinating
president.
Question. Do you
Yeah.
think the country is ready for a black woman
We
president?
want free
And she
health
said
care.
yes.
You're
And
getting
depending on how
slacks.
this night goes, I think that will be one of the questions that gets
This
asked
is
as
the,
well.
the piece that, and again, we don't know what the outcome is
Yes.
yet, but I think when Hillary Clinton lost, a lot of people felt like, a lot of women, a lot of Democrats felt like there's never going to be a woman in my lifetime, right? And I think one of the things that is going to be a challenge if Harris loses is that there will be Democrats who will not want to take a risk on a woman, on someone who's diverse, because they'll think,
Interesting.
I like that person, but the country's not ready. Here's the thing. The country's not ready until the country is ready. With Barack Obama, there's a range of factors that lead to the win or loss of anyone, and we don't know what's happened yet, that will all have to be delved into, but I do worry about that if she loses.
We do know it is something that she leaned out of in her campaign, unlike Hillary Clinton in 2016. It was not something, she didn't open her stump speeches with that idea. I mean, she talks about it, and she talked about it with me. She's talked about it with all of you here too, that it would be the president for all Americans, and that she is sort of putting her head down and grinding it out.
But if she loses, it won't be because women didn't turn out. It won't be because of women, right? It won't be because she pulled back a lot of the Democratic base that had gone away and were, double haters, as we called them for a long time, before there was a switch at the top of the ticket. And that is actually how Barack Obama also ran and won, which he didn't lead with the historic nature of his candidacy on his sleeve. There will be a lot of people who second guess that if she loses.
But if she loses, it may also be because there are tremendous headwinds in terms of an unpopular incumbent and people feeling terrible about the economy. And even if inflation is down to 2%, sometimes
we're doing the election stream. We're Jeb maxing. If you didn't vote for Jeb Bush, get out.
Be the rationale.
That's exactly my point. I was trying to make earlier, and you just did it in a more articulate way, which is that there will be
An
many,
election
there
stream and a
always
Bobby
leads to
Science
conclusion
victory. Now
in
this is
both
the content
parties
I
when
said.
you lose, or if they lose, and again, we don't know yet. But people will
Yeah,
lead
you
to
see
different
what
ones, right? The country isn't
the
ready for a woman. The country isn't
leader I
ready
have.
for a black woman. All of these things,
Oh,
but there
we-
are a lot of factors
oh.
that play into a win or a loss. And
Wow,
I
that's
think
a
if she loses,
surprise,
Original.
huh?
hopeful people will look at the broad scope of where the country is, the cultural divides, the rural-urban divides,
The education divides.
the education divides.
Teddy
There are
Roosevelt, the
just a
bull
lot of
moves.
factors at play.
They flooded my motherfucking city.
More like
No.
Teddy Roosevelt, the bull
Should
crap.
this all end the way we were talking, that's
Somebody
possibility.
found things.
No.
You have a very young, good bench.
That was me.
In Governor Shapiro, the governor of North Carolina, the Gretchen Whitmer.
What are you saying
Who
no
could
at? Is the
possibly
Reaper in your
bridge
room?
that gap, and as opposed to saddling them with the L, if they would have joined the ticket with the vice president, or if they had replaced the vice president and become
He's
the
dead.
nominee with
I
100
was
and some
right.
days out, it would be a
No.
very difficult situation.
No.
You would have been weaker as a party for it.
Well, yeah.
You think that would be his last words if someone broke into his house to kill
She
him?
loses,
No.
Trump wins. There will be millions of people in this country who voted
Sorry,
for her who feel
sorry,
like we're in
the
a state
dog
of
was
an
being
emergency,
bad.
and I
Holy
think
shit,
that's
your
how
heart came back?
People will respond and feel, and they will be looking for hope.
Some dude's crawling through the window. No.
People in the Democratic bench you mentioned.
Not even
some of them were in the
fight or flight.
beefsteaks we all lived through this summer. Some of them were
Baked
not.
in his
You
chair.
would expect with all the air on
Just a
everything
command.
else in the
Hit
coming
him with the verbal debate.
Well, and that's what makes the timing, I think, of President
No.
Biden's decision to step down after the debate something that if she does in fact lose,
You guys
will
are
be under a
shitheads. The
microscope
dog
because, of
was
course, there was
being
so
bad.
much discussion,
Oh.
even over the summer, about potentially having an
was
open
so
primary
funny.
and having that fight play out within the Democratic
Oh.
Party. So I think it's one of the big questions moving
And
forward.
you mentioned debate. We haven't really talked about that. There was no second debate. And you
That's
have to wonder how that affected the trajectory of this race, because by most accounts, he didn't perform well in his first debate with Harris.
True. And I also think that it throws into question a lot of things. I mean, I think anybody who watched that debate objectively felt she outperformed him in that debate. If she doesn't win, yes, maybe there should be a
Can't
second
stop
debate,
thinking
but
about
do debates matter? They should matter. They're the public being able to see the candidates.
There's him
She has
seeing the
a
Grim Reaper
superior
in his
ground
room.
operation that has been invested in across the country. The Republican state parties, you
The
can
ghost
disagree
of
with me here,
Christmas
course,
past.
are
Yeah.
falling apart in many states in the country. That will throw into
dox
question.
you a little
Does that
harder.
matter?
He
It
does
should
live
matter,
next to a
but
graveyard,
it will
so.
throw that into question. So yes, not a second debate, not an opportunity for people to see them person to person. The first one definitely benefited her, but if she doesn't
Stop doxing
win,
me.
it didn't benefit her enough to put her in the White House.
Well, we've got a lot to talk about. We're still waiting on a lot of numbers from the battleground states and the road to 270. We'll be right back after this break.
All right, boys. I am gonna get off.
What the heck?
Okay. I'm in a golden age right now, and I have to leave.
No one's making you.
We need, I have no builders, huh?
I think I might be hitting the old hop off too.
You're hitting the old quitting on your team.
If I hit save game, can I play this by myself later on, the rest of the game?
Possibly.
Man, he really did just disconnect, huh?
Why are you people talking about me in the third person?
No.
Oh. Mm-hmm.
Wait, he just left?
Yeah.
He left?
I guess so.
News lives in the now. It's coming at us every second. News is more now than ever.
This monster and historic storm is set to make landfall.
Now is raw.
What was your initial reaction?
Devastating. Now is real.
Voters are voting. It's here. It's happening.
Now is constant.
You gotta see this.
Future is now. News for the generation of now is NBC News Now.
Alright, well,
Welcome back. If you
after
have
this
stepped
turn,
away
should
or
we
parts of the
call it, or
conversation,
do you
know that
guys
this
want to keep
race is
going?
not over. This is the road to 270. Then, of course, the
I'm
magic
done right
number.
after this turn.
Donald Trump right now leading with 230.
But you guys are welcome to
with
keep going, obviously.
189. All right, here's what we have from the state of Nevada. It's 6 electoral votes.
It's up to you guys. I'm fucking
NBC News characterization of the race. You can see Donald Trump
stuck on this overcrowded shithole continent.
to call Georgia. That is also too close to call. A 118.
You've done all right though. You could settle down by where your archer is too.
15 electoral votes in play.
There's a lot of decent stuff down there.
Donald Trump with a narrow
And then you could
My
settle.
archer is.
Yeah,
watch this one
he's getting flooded on right now.
Let's zoom in on Michigan with Tom Yamas. What you got?
Hey guys, okay, so we have now more than 50% of the vote is in Michigan, as you mentioned, Lester. 15 electoral votes. This was
Holy
Biden's
fuck,
largest
Bobby.
margin of
What's
victory
going
in
on
2020 when
here?
it came to the battleground states.
Yeah, it's not looking too good.
Almost the whole
They
game
took
is
your
Wayne
builder,
County,
I'm
Detroit,
guessing?
Not enough vote there.
Yeah, they
About a
took my
quarter of the vote is
builder,
in. We can't
and they
really
just
make
keep
any
spawning
projections
guys every
also because
round.
So much of that vote is out.
Oh,
But just to
I
give
see
you an
where it
idea of
is.
where
Yeah, that's
Biden
really
was in
unfortunate.
2020. Again, a lot of this vote is out, so I don't want to spend too much time on this, but 68%.
Oh, Bob, you're on the same
tonight, right now,
continent as
Harris
me,
at this
actually.
point in time is at
It's just
58%.
like
Not a great number for her.
separated by
It is a tale of
mountains.
two suburbs
At least
in
where
Michigan,
I've
right? You have
explored.
Oakland County. This is where Kamala Harris did that rally, or I should say that town hall with Oprah Winfrey. This is one of the wealthiest counties in all of Michigan. Pontiac, Michigan is here, the suburbs of Detroit. This is where Biden was in 2020, 56%. This is where Harris is tonight, 53%. There's still about 20% of the vote. Just over Macomb County. Now, this is a little more middle class, a little more working class. It is a suburb of Detroit as well. Republicans do very well here. Trump was at 53%. There's only about a third of the vote in. He's at 57, so he's overperforming there. Some of the other areas we want to watch: Grand Rapids, Kent County. This is the last place where Trump held the rally last night, and or I should say on Monday. Sorry, I'm getting my days confused here. Biden was at 52. She's overperforming there. That's good news for the Democrats. I also want to talk about Washtenaw. This is the University of Michigan. Go Big Blue if you're a fan out there. 71% of the vote is in. Remember, this is a college county. Democrats have to do very well here.
Didn't I
Biden,
have a
72%.
settler somewhere? I
Tonight,
did.
Harris is
Why the
underperforming
fuck
right
haven't
now.
you
Three-quarters,
moved?
almost three-quarters of the vote in Ingham County.
You must have
again,
fortified it
another
instead of
college
automated
county.
it.
This is where Michigan State is.
No, like
Half the vote
all
is in.
you have to do to automate it is just set the path, right?
Yeah, unless something gets in the way of its path.
Now, Cass County, Trump's at
That's
66%.
fucking retarded.
4 years ago, he was at
Oh,
63. So
you can be
again,
paid
the
on
story of Trump over.
Sorry.
Damn, dog.
As well in Michigan. Still, a lot of the vote is out, though. Look, we still need half the vote to come in.
All right.
A lot of that's going to
Once
be
the
Detroit,
next
as
turn
we
goes,
know.
I'm saving and getting off.
Saginaw. This is a battleground
Alright,
county.
yeah.
This
I
is
wanna take
where
this
she toured that
fucking barbarian,
semiconductor plant. We don't
post.
see much there. There's only 1% of the vote in. I don't want to draw anything from there. We're going to check Kalamazoo. She appeared here with Michelle Obama. It was the Harrison Michelle Obama appearance. Only 13% of the vote in, and she's slightly underperforming. Guys, a lot of the vote is still out in Michigan, but the trend lines we've been seeing in the other states, we're sort of seeing in Michigan as well. But again, I don't want to draw too much from that because there's a lot of that vote that's out.
So interesting to see you do those university towns because
It's shocking.
Well,
Yeah.
because there was a lot of turnout and Democrats early in the day were kind of giddy about that, but I think this might be a function of what we've been seeing, which is young men turning out for Donald Trump and maybe skewing what you normally would expect from a university town.
And something we haven't mentioned just yet, because so much of the vote is out in Wayne County. You have Detroit and you have Dearborn.
Let's
that makes
go.
up Wayne County, that Arab
game.
American Muslim vote. We're talking about more than 200,000 voters there. Again, it's probably not going to be monolithic, but they're uncommitted votes as well. The question is, what happens? Do they not show up? Do they vote third party? Do they vote for Trump? Or do
The
they stick
fuck
with
was
Harris?
that?
We still
Just
don't know.
happened.
Okay,
That was
Tom,
Anthony
hang tight
leaving.
there. We want to go right
Oh,
to
okay.
Detroit, actually. NBC's Jesse Kirsch on duty there. Hey, Jesse.
Jesse.
Hey,
Just
Savannah,
we
I
have
know
to
we're
cook.
wondering when we're going to have those votes from Wayne County, specifically Detroit, where I am right now, as Tom was just mentioning. Here's what we know from officials. Here in Detroit, city officials had
Stop
expected
the
around
count.
midnight that the full tabulation would be completed. So we haven't.
Bye,
Just
boys.
stop the count. Finalized. But
See
that
ya.
was the
And the
estimate
winner
earlier
of New
in the
Mexico,
evening. We know
Ted
that absentee
Beneke.
ballots, around 95% of that had been pre-processed before
You're
election
saying
day.
that
So
right,
the
Fred.
overwhelming bulk of the absentee ballots were ready to be
I fucked
tabulated
Ted.
before election day. So that was what was the
Yeah,
expectation
I bet
heading
you did,
into
Tom.
just a short time ago. We heard from the Secretary of State here in Michigan herself, and she says that they are further along in tabulation, including for here in Detroit, than was anticipated. Her initial estimate before Election Day was by midday Wednesday. So today we would have an answer on the unofficial results. She says it could be sooner. Now, there is a
where's
caveat.
my
Remember, in 2016,
thing
former President
go?
Trump won this state by around 10,000 votes. We are told there are around 6,000 ballots outstanding from military and overseas. If they're
I
postmarked
tuned into
by
the
Tuesday,
Daily Wires
they can
live
be
stream
counted
on
if they're
YouTube,
received by a week
and
from yesterday.
it's just
which
Matt
would be
Walsh
Tuesday, the
talking,
12th. Back to you,
and the
guys.
chat is being
All right,
spammed
thanks,
to the
Jesse.
brim
And in
with the
Battleground
KSI
Georgia,
song.
Ellison Farmer is in Gary. Ellison, how's it looking like there?
Hey, Lester, it's starting to get a lot quieter in this tabulation
That's
center, and that's
so
because for the
funny.
most part, they're almost done here. We're told by election officials in
Seriously.
this county there
Look
is
at this
one
shit. It's
precinct that is still out of the 156, 155 have been counted. They're still counting one final precinct and a few absentee ballots, but voter turnout here has surpassed what we saw in 2020. That's something both Democrats and Republicans were hoping for. But what Republicans were hoping for specifically was that Trump could maybe get a couple percentage points above the 40% that he had in this state back in 2020, and that it would be enough to chip into Harris's margins and the Democrats' margins here and then carry the state. And right now, he's a little over 41% of the vote in this county. So it looks
The
like what they
chat.
were hoping would happen here in terms of those couple extra percentage points might have happened. I will remind you, when we're talking about Georgia, think of what happened here back in 2022 in the midterms, where you had Trump endorsing candidates
I like the
in the
emojis.
Senate race, in the gubernatorial race,
The
and
fire
in the Secretary of
emojis.
State race. All of the candidates he'd backed lost that election
Oh my-
cycle. The state essentially seemed to be rebuking
Hearing this guy
Donald Trump.
talk just
Tonight,
only
Lester, it
makes
seems
me
like
think
we're
of
seeing
the
a very
YTP.
different Georgia than what we saw back in
Prager.
2022.
Yeah.
All
Prager,
right,
yeah.
Ellison, thank you.
Yeah,
Let's
he's
go out
he's
west.
on the
Reno,
stream.
Nevada,
The
Steve
baby.
Patterson is there
Fucking
in Washoe
died.
County. Tell us what you're seeing there.
Democracy in action, Savannah. We're in the tabulation center. The machines are humming. The ballots are coming in from polling places all across the county. Although it is now
Such a funny thing to be putting in this chat
the
right
workers
now.
you see over my shoulder are
That
going
is
to
really
be here
funny.
for a while. That is because we just heard from an election official about 10, 15 minutes ago to say that people are still voting. It is, 2.5 hours past when polls were supposed to close. People that are still in line can still vote, and they are still voting. We're hearing that there's a polling place.
The baby fucking
tribal
dies.
community
The
that
baby
has about 50 people still in line. It's going to take a while for those
What
votes to
happens
get counted.
if you
Each
push
person
a
who
ball
votes and
underwater?
comes
Kills the
today
baby.
have to
Guess what
wait to be
happens? The
counted
baby
until
fucking
the very
die.
last person in Nevada takes their turn to vote. So this is going to take some time. We're also understand there was a University of Nevada, Reno, that took a while. There were about 50 people that still had to vote after
For
polls
reasons
closed
we
there.
do
That is
not yet
because
fully
Day
understand.
registrations were spiking at college campuses. College students realized, you know what, I think I am going to vote. And so they signed up to vote on the same day, clogged the system a little bit. None of this is to say that this is any indication that there's anything wrong, any indication of fraud. It just means that the system is taking a while. And as we often report in the Silver State, it may take a minute before we get totals here. Back to you.
All right, Steve, thanks very much. NBC News senior legal correspondent Laura Jarrett joins us now. She's at the Vote Watch desk with an update on the abortion measures on the ballots in several states.
Hey guys, yeah, we've been tracking these across 10 different states tonight, and at least so far, we can make calls for 4 different states, and it's worth noting here, the places where the abortion referendums have actually gone through and passed are places where abortion rights are not in jeopardy, places like Colorado, where abortion is easily on the ballot there and has managed to pass. The first one, New New York. Again, obviously you can still get an abortion in New York, but there was part of a package of anti-discrimination laws to try to shore up these rights. Again, these are constitutional amendments. The next one, in Maryland, you can get an abortion up to the point of viability, around 24 weeks of pregnancy now, and it again will be enshrined in the Constitution. The big exception here, guys, Florida. That one was different because it required a supermajority to pass, 60% of voters, and it did not meet that threshold, falling just above it, just short of it, around 58%. So that one, the abortion referendum failed. It will not enshrine constitutional rights to abortion in the state of Florida, and the 6-week ban will stand there. Guys, we're going to keep watching other states like South Dakota, also Missouri, Nebraska. The referendums are still on the ballot there, and they're not yet at a point where we can project those. Send it back to you guys.
All right, Laura, thanks very much.
We've got a new guest on our panel. We've got former Housing and Urban Development Secretary, Democrat Julian Castro, and Republican Mark Lauder remains with us. He was the communications director for Trump's 2020 campaign. Nice to have you both with us. Congressman, I have to ask you about the Latino vote, because we're looking at an exit poll that shows Latino men broke for Trump by 10 points. They went for Biden by 23. That's a 33-point swing. How do you make sense of that?
The fucking MSNBC live stream of the results board has like the most epic minigame music on loop.
But like, I think it's safe to say, right? We've seen enough evidence that there was a significant shift among Latinos. I attribute that to several things. I think that you were talking about divides earlier.
I'm gonna go
right?
around and
There's
just like
in this Trump era, the
rate the
rural
best
urban
streams.
divide, also around educational background. I think that's true in the Latino community too. If you notice, particularly in these places that are more small town and rural, he has picked up significant Latino support. I think we're seeing that in places like Pennsylvania. In addition to that, from what I could gather,
Yes,
the
I know it's
economic
waiting
message
for me.
really
Fuck
resonated.
off.
You have to remember, this is a working class community by and large, and all of those messages he stuck to about we had the greatest economy and, you know, look how bad inflation is and so forth. I think that played well this year. I'll be interested to see whether there's a difference in Nevada and Arizona. Those are states where the Latino community is much more organized and has been by Democrats for longer than in places like Pennsylvania or some of the other battleground states.
We've got to make a call here, Secretary. This is NBC News projection in the state of Georgia. NBC News
Trump won
projects that
Georgia.
Donald Trump will win in
Did they
Georgia
call
when
it?
all the votes are counted. There's the
Projected
breakdown
win.
right now, 118,000 vote margin. But again, Donald Trump, the projected winner.
So
This
put
is
him at
a
48.
big call here on a night in which we've waited quite some time for some of these important battleground calls. Here's what the road to 270 looks like. Donald Trump drawing closer now to that magic number. He's at 246, Harris at 189.
Well, this means it's
Oh.
blue wall or bust for Kamala Harris. It's Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, and Michigan, or there is no path to 270 for her. So we'll continue to keep an eye on this as we await results in those big industrial Midwest states, as well as the battlegrounds out west. We're going to
Folks,
pause
I
a moment.
came
We're gonna
back
let
the same
local
year as
stations
Holy
round up
shit,
some
he's
news.
he's on the way to the convention center. He's going to declare victory.
No shit, really?
Yeah.
Ground-based zombies is back. October 25th, Black Ops 6. The liberals want to take away our zombies. They want to add Warzone to it.
I said you can't do that.
I was just looking over at Tom, who's the
They want to add
back of the envelope math
waypoints for the Easter eggs.
I just want to make this very simple for us here. And
They
also
want,
for
No one-
they
no
want
one-
to make nonsense
So we
guys that
projected
said you
Georgia
can
and
do
North
that. You need
Carolina.
no nonsense guys. They want nonsense
Back to
guys.
the White House. Look at his number right here.
I said we can't do that. We need Mr. Raffle
He's
Waffles.
going back to the White House, 271. It's coming down to Pennsylvania.
No
right
one's
now
a better
for
zombies
Republicans.
player
What the math
than me.
changes now for Kamala Harris,
Believe me.
right?
Believe
Is
me.
now she no longer has a Sun Belt strategy.
Mr. Dalek
She's lost
JD, one of the
Georgia,
best
she's
zombies
lost
players
North
I've ever
Carolina.
known. I've not known
If
many
she wins
zombies players,
Nevada
believe
and
me.
Arizona,
Many
she's still going
blobbies.
to have to pick off 2 states in the blue wall. She no longer has that path. Listen, if she
Look at my
wins
zombie
the
over
entire
there.
blue
Isn't he the
wall,
greatest?
yes, she goes to the White House. That's still an option for
I
her.
love that guy.
Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. She has to win all 3. But it looks like this is the entire game for her right now, guys. By losing North Carolina, losing Georgia, things have just gotten much easier for former President Trump. We're going to be watching Pennsylvania more than ever before right now because
George
those 19
Peterson,
electoral votes
interesting.
will put him over the top if we project that state for him. Guys?
All right, Tom, thanks very much. So We'll turn to Secretary Castro here. Your thoughts
Secretary
on
Castro.
at this point where we are?
Fidel Castro?
Yeah, Secretary Fidel.
Honestly, it feels like 2016. And just the path becoming smaller and smaller. There are still votes to be counted, and we saw a lot of enthusiasm today. And so it's possible that you have significant election day voting that could change this. But what I've noticed is just in county after county in Pennsylvania that he's been overperforming and that she's been underperforming what Biden and Trump did in 2020. And that's, for Democrats has to be worrisome.
What do you attribute that to? I mean, it's early. I mean, but when you look at that, you can't say they didn't park in Pennsylvania. They did. And they have this superior organization, most analysts think. What do you think was the difference maker?
I think she was put in a very difficult position by President Biden.
I hate to interrupt you, I'm sorry, but we have a call in the U.S.
here we go.
Senate that will change the balance of power in the U.S. Senate. NBC News now
Oh
calling
wow, GOP has control of the Senate.
That's with the victory
I know.
of Deb Fisher, the
I was like,
incumbent
this is
in
going to be
Nebraska,
crazy
who
because he's
was
going to have the
given
Senate, the
a run
House,
for her money
technically
from
the
an independent
Supreme Court
there,
too,
Dan
and he's
Osborne
not
said he
running for
wouldn't caucus
re-election.
with either side,
He's
but
going to go fucking
it
hog
went down to
wild.
the wire, but in the end, the Nebraska Senate goes back to the Republicans.
We'll have
and that
round-based
gives,
zombies
a
maps
leg up
every
to the
month.
Republicans and the gains they need to take control.
And we'll free Julian
They
Assange.
should have won it based on how it looks, and it obviously we are now
We're
protecting
bringing
what they
back
have in here. You've
Victus.
got that
No
Nebraska
operators.
pickup.
Get him out of here.
We're
Operators.
looking at these other races that are very, very close where there are Democratic incumbents in the Senate. So this is significant, obviously, for the balance of power in Congress and for whoever ends up in the White House, especially if it is former President Trump. A lot of eyes are going to be on what the House does, where the House goes here, with that landscape looking very different, of course, those critical races.
Why don't we ask Ryan Nobles, our colleague who is here somewhere?
He covers it. Go the
He covers Capitol Hill.
I'm gonna go pee real quick.
All right, what we know now is the Republicans have control of the Senate. What we don't know is the margin, and you still have a very vulnerable Democratic seat out west in Montana. We wait for Michigan. We wait for Wisconsin. What are you hearing?
Yeah, Savannah, I think of all the outcomes that happened here tonight, this is probably the least surprising. Republicans felt very confident about their chances of winning back the Senate, just given the map. There were 10 competitive Senate races across the country. 8 of them were held by incumbent Democrats. And the places where they were battling out these races were in places where the elections were expected to be very competitive. And we see that playing out here in a big way tonight. I do think perhaps the most interesting dynamic that's now playing out at this hour is that where Senate Republicans were confident of winning the majority, but they were very much talking to us about the idea of 50+1. They just wanted 51 seats to make sure that they would have the Senate Majority Leader, that they could control the legislation that came on and off the Senate floor. They're now talking about perhaps significant margins. They are now looking at that blue wall the same way that we are looking at the blue wall in terms of the race for president and seeing real opportunities for pickups in places like Wisconsin, in places like Michigan, in places like Pennsylvania. These were areas where Democrats were hopeful because they had strong incumbents there, or they had strong challengers, people running in open seats like in Michigan, who they thought they'd be able to run ahead of Kamala Harris, even if the race was close at the presidential
Now the
level.
fucking chat is just
Donald
being
Trump's
spammed
margins
with
seem to be bringing those Republican candidates along with
fucking
him, in states along
eating
that
my
blue
lunch
wall.
sleeve while
And then don't
washing it
forget there's
down with
2 other
Prime.
Senate seats that are still on the balance as well. I know you already talked about Montana, which Republicans are
While
very confident
watching the
about,
Talk
but
to
we
a
also have Nevada and
podcast.
Arizona. Arizona
Yeah, wait, is the
Republicans
Talk
were not
to a
that bullish
podcast
on
streaming
it.
right now?
Did
I-
not have high hopes for Carrie Lake.
I come
The
back and
candidate
we're
where
talking
the
about
scenario
Talk
in which
to
they
a.
thought Carrie Lake could win
Talk
is the
to
scenario
up streaming right now.
that
That's
we
where
see
I
playing
that's
out
where I
right
like to get
now,
my
and that
news.
was a big Donald Trump victory that would bring her across the finish line. So there's no doubt that there are a lot of very happy people in the Senate Republican caucus, and this is going to be a very different looking Senate Republican caucus, one that might look a lot more like the House Republican caucus that we've covered over the past couple of election cycles. So there's no doubt that there's going to be a lot of change in Washington as a result of what we see playing out here.
Yeah, different leadership too. Senator McConnell is stepping aside there. Let's go to Kelly O'Donnell, who's also there, certainly is a veteran of the Hill. We await who will control the House of Representatives, and we may be waiting for weeks for that one. But Kelly, what's your takeaway here?
Well, certainly if
the Senate Republicans have this way of reshaping themselves, and it is without Mitch McConnell, who's decided he's not going to be in leadership. And so it will be more in the
Oh,
form
Mitch
of Donald
McConnell
Trump.
stepped
And
down?
if Donald Trump becomes
Did
president
he really?
again, then you have that kind
I mean,
of
she said he
partnership where
decided
will
he
have more
won't be in
opportunity to
leadership.
drive the agenda. Now, if the
Good.
House goes
Fuck
to the
him.
Democrats,
Good is
then
right.
they have the counterweight.
Fucking
and
tortoise
they have
piece
the
of
power
shit.
Yeah, I was gonna
subpoena
say
and
the
the power to
9/11
be
turtle.
agitation to a Donald Trump if he returns to the White House. For
That's still
Republicans,
perhaps
as
the
Ryan
best thing
mentioned,
I've
and as
ever
we've
heard.
talked about tonight, the expectation was that this was likely
Is
because
that
there's
he
a third
he
of the Senate
did a
that is up
prayer
every 2
for the
years,
victims of
34 seats
9/11
this
in
time,
the turtle
and
suit
it
from
was
Master of
favorable
Disguise.
territory for Republicans. But for the
Yeah, have you seen
partnership
Master
between
of
the White House
Disguise?
and
No.
Oh.
at least one chamber
You've
of
never
the Senate,
seen like
of the Congress, it makes such a
who
difference.
who
Now,
is
Donald
that?
Trump
Is
has
that
not
Dana
always
Carvey?
courted those Republicans. He has such a
Fucking
grasp
Dana
over his
Carvey.
party, not always wanting
You've
to
never
work with them in
seen like
terms of
the
governing
Master of
and getting
Disguise
things
movie
done,
where he goes
but
turtle,
he has infused
turtle,
his brand,
turtle.
his personality
No.
into
It's
this
basically the
Republican
whole thing
caucus,
is like,
and
well,
that
I don't
will
even remember.
mean
He's like
a
solving mysteries,
sort of
but he's a master of
Trump-style
disguise,
reflection in
so
the Senate, perhaps
he
more than we saw in his
puts
first
on a
term,
bunch of disguises
because
to
you
solve the
won't
mystery,
have
essentially.
Mitch McConnell in a leadership position.
And there's
All right, we
this
want to go to Harris headquarters, Cedric Richmond, who is, of course, the
ridiculous
head of the
turtle
DNC,
costume in the
about to
movie, and
address the
apparently
crowd there.
they
Let's
were
listen
filming
in.
that scene like the day after 9/11. He led a prayer in the turtle costume.
Oh.
Good evening, HU.
Turtle.
Something's
I wanna say
happening.
good evening to all of the Harris campaign, the campaign family. Thank you.
Bitcoin hits
for
record
all that
high
you
of
have done.
74,000 amid
Thank
United
you for
States
being
election
here.
hype.
Wow.
Thank you for believing in the promise of America. We still have votes to count. We still have states that have not been called yet. We will continue overnight to fight to make sure that every vote is counted, that every voice has spoken. So you won't hear from the Vice President tonight, but you will hear from her tomorrow. She will be back here tomorrow to address not only the HU family, not only to address her supporters, but to address the nation. So thank you. We believe in you. May God bless you. May God keep you.
Oh no.
And go HU and go Harris.
Kamala blew her fucking event off.
Yeah.
Richmond, who is, of course, the co-chair of
Everyone's
the
leaving
Harris
in the
campaign,
background.
who spoke earlier. Apologies.
See you,
for that, saying
losers.
that we will not hear from Kamala Harris tonight, but we will hear from her tomorrow. We've got Julian Castro here. What do you make of that? What are your tea leaves showing you?
It reminds me of John Podesta coming out at the Jacob Javits Center around the same time.
Waiting for
That
butt
was a little
sacks to
later
photos.
in
Yeah.
2016.
And if I recall, the race hadn't been called.
Had not been.
When he first came
but
out as
was
well.
called probably an hour and a half later, if I remember correctly. Look, I think it's important to note this is a different year. There are still votes to be counted. None of those.
Are they playing
battleground
Let's
states have
Groove
been
tonight
counted,
in the
but
background?
It feels eerily similar to 2016.
That would be so great.
Striking if you were. Which I was to see not the candidate herself come out, but to see in this case Cedric Richmond, just as John Podesta came out. And again, I think the themes. One of the questions that we were looking at in 2016 was the fact that Hillary Clinton didn't visit Michigan, for example. This was very different. Vice President Kamala Harris went everywhere.
She showed up in
all
Wisconsin.
of the
She showed up in
battleground
those
states,
blue wall
but
states.
again, her messaging, and we all noted this at the time, her closing messaging really focused on the issue of democracy when polls
great
showed
scientist.
issues like the economy, like reproductive rights, are really the top issues for voters. So that's undoubtedly one
although
thing
in our
that would be
exit
under-
polls,
well, yes,
threat to democracy
that's our
is the
issue,
number
yes.
one
Oh my
issue.
God, is he
It's
about
just
to
that
speak?
it's in the eye of the beholder, and it means different things. I mean, Mark Lauder's here, a veteran of Republican campaigns and the Trump campaign in 2020. I mean, a threat to democracy, I think, is, the pollsters, we're going to all have to come and workshop a different way of putting it, because
Exactly right.
for some, for Democrats, it certainly means January 6th and some of those, extra legal, not legal moves to try to hold on to power in 2020. For Republicans, it might mean cultural changes to the way our way of life, things that threaten.
Classic YMCA days.
It could be a number of cultural issues that they think are just
My
as
God.
existential
Stevens, he has more friggin' crayon eaters just roam.
I do think there are a lot, though, that believe the threat to democracy
warriors
also is back in
everywhere.
the Supreme Court.
Is
It
he
is
lagging
the
or
use
am
of
I?
the lawfare, whether it was in New York, whether it was the special
Ooh.
I think
counsel,
he was.
for things that really,
Your
like,
mic was
as
lagging
we
a little
often
bit.
describe it, the New
I
York
couldn't
case
really tell
was
what you were saying.
about accounting and a
Stevens
paperwork issue.
moron warriors
And
are
yet
just
he was,
everywhere on my
fined hundreds
land.
of millions of dollars, faces jail time. So those kinds of things, I think, also resonate
Yeah, but
for many.
you're still
But I know we've
allied
talked
with
about a
them.
lot about the
It's not like they can
2016
do
and
anything.
For
campaign
now.
as well with
No.
then Governor Pence.
It's
Obviously
for the
part of
entire
Trump
game.
campaign. It reminds me of 2016 in so many ways because of the theory. It's not you have to win wow counties or you have to do. I'll use the McDonald's reference because it's an iconic photo. He supersized 2016 and said, I'm going to grow my rural numbers, and then I'm going to take them up another level even more.
Well, as we go to a commercial break, there's the side-by-side picture. If you were just tuning into all this, I think the pictures speak loudly. On the left, the Harris campaign headquarters for the night as people are packing up and leaving, told they will not see the candidate tonight as they process some unhelpful trends for them. On the right side, the Trump gathering in
Yes,
West
I know
Palm
it's
Beach
waiting
tonight,
on
where
me.
we have seen dancing and celebration. Again, the race has not been called yet, but they, like everyone else, watching some interesting trend lines that seem to be pointing in that direction. We'll take a break here.
Dude, MSNBC is so solemn about this.
Yeah.
I need to tap into this shit.
Lake Michigan. And for a while, you know,
Okay, I just cut to commercial.
Yeah.
Oh.
No, we'll be
Maybe
back. Damn.
Maybe that's right.
Is anyone watching my stream in Discord? Or can I end
I'm.
that? Oh, you are?
Or you can end it.
No. If you're
No,
watching,
no,
I'll
you
keep
can
it on.
end it. No, you can end it.
Well, it's staying on now.
I personally prefer to hear Rachel Maddow speak.
No.
Oh, she
This
on?
isn't a dream. This isn't a nightmare.
I'm not going to bed until I see someone cry.
I do need to see some absolute freakouts for sure. The compilations from 2016 are unbelievably good.
They're so funny.
Yes.
Not until we see screaming at the sky.
Yes.
No. Yeah, holy shit. I hope that lady comes back.
The sequel.
Round 2.
Getting behind the curtain.
Yeah.
Campaign says Harris will not speak to supporters until tomorrow.
Yeah.
What a dumb bitch.
Oh my God. Yeah, it seems like it's wine time. Wine time for Officer Harris.
Let's see the energy, boys. Let's see the energy.
It is almost 1 a.m. here in the East.
He's talking about the NBC crew. Oh, it's Mega.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is that Donald Lemon?
No.
Calling Lester Holt Megamind.
Is that his Lester
Yeah.
Holt?
Senate, Kristen Walker.
Yeah.
The balance of power there, and Republicans have officially
Megamind.
regained control of the United States
More
Senate.
like the
They've regained
witness.
control of the United States Senate, which is a significant development, one that was expected. And now the question that we are asking is just how big
We've been
will
watching
their
the
margins
polls.
be in the Senate. So right now it's 51 to 41. We're still waiting for a number of results. But among the top states that we're looking for, now that they have these pickups, which have given them control, Arizona, Ruben Gallego, and Kerry Lake, we still haven't called that race. The Montana race is such a fascinating one. Senator John Tester trying to win re-election against Tim Sheehy. Tim Shee is somewhat controversial
Shee.
candidate,
Right? He has
and
like
yet
5 million in the
it
popular
looks
vote.
like
That's,
Sean
that was
Tester could
unexpected.
potentially be poised for defeat. We'll have to see how that race goes.
It's a very red state, Montana, so he was one of the most vulnerable incumbents.
Absolutely. And when Republicans were eyeing how are we going to win the Senate, this was the race that they continued to reference. We're also
get to
waiting
claim
for
a great
Pennsylvania.
person?
Senator Bob Casey looking for
Oh, yeah,
a
you do.
fourth term against
Who is it?
Dave
Congratulations,
McCormick,
win
Trump-backed
the
businessman
Donald Trump.
Dave McCormick. So we're watching. And Tammy Baldwin,
McDonald's
by the way,
Great
also
Person
in
Award.
Wisconsin is looking for re-election.
How about Michigan? We've got
You
an
get to
open
choose
seat on the
a
Democratic
great
primary.
scientist. He'll give you
Absolutely.
medieval
have Alyssa
stuff.
Slotkin and Mike Rogers running very close. And again, I keep making this point.
But we
Wait,
like
so I can only choose one person?
It only gives you one great person, like per, like because you accumulate great person points based on like if you have universities and you keep adding like buildings into the universities, like the libraries and all that stuff. It'll give you more great scientist points. Building up a bigger army will give you great general, bigger navy, great admiral. More.
So should I pass on this one?
No, just take them. Take them when you get them. It's not like there's a finite amount, unless it's a there is a finite. Oh, I was gonna say great prophet. So you only get one great prophet because he founds your religion. So that's good that you got him.
Okay.
So yeah, you bring him over to your shrine. It'll like highlight the tile white, and then you just retire him, and you'll create a religion.
Let's check back right
I see.
now with the presidential race and the road to 270.
Coming up on 1 o'clock in the morning in the east, that's the road to 270. The map filling out 6 of 7 battleground states have been
Time
called.
to
And we
build
just
a
got word from
navy.
Harris headquarters and the co-chair of the campaign, Cedric Richmond, that we will not be seeing Kamala Harris tonight, but we will see her tomorrow. Let's go to Harris headquarters. Peter Alexander,
So
of course,
what do we do
right
with the
there.
great
So
prophet
what are you
guy?
hearing? What is the decision-making process there?
He founds your religion. That's literally the only thing that great prophets do.
But he can move.
Savannah, we did just hear
Yeah.
from Cedric Richmond making the announcement to
So you move him over to
thousands
your
who have
shrine.
gathered here. Frankly, many of them had already
Oh.
left as we approached
Because like with
the
other
saying
great
that they would
people,
not
like
hear
say you
from
get
the
like a
Vice
great
President Kamala
merchant,
Harris
you get
tonight,
that from
saying that she would speak
having a lot
to
of great merchant points
supporters, not
from
just here at
like your
Howard
commercial
University or
hubs,
Alma Mater, but to the
and
nation
you can
as well.
like
And an
there's
address
a
that would take place
certain
at some point
great
tomorrow. No
merchant where
specifics
you can bring
on
him
when
to
that
a
would
city
occur
state
for those who have kept
and
track of the Trump era. You
retire him
remember
in their
in
city state,
2016,
and
a
it'll
very
add it to
similar
your
circumstance
empire.
there at the Javits Center
I
in
see.
New York City at Hillary Clinton.
Set religion
headquarters,
name.
one
I
of
can
her
pick
top
my
aides,
religion's
Dr. Podesta,
name.
came
Yeah,
out
my
saying
religion
that
is always
she
beating
wouldn't
the
be speaking.
elderly
Ultimately, she
with the
conceded,
blue
the
fish
next morning,
logo.
Wednesday morning. So a lot of
Oh,
folks
so
still
these
out
the
there,
logos
plans
don't
for
mean
any
anything?
concessions
Yeah,
early
but
this
choose your
morning, but I
logo
can tell you in
before.
conversations
That's
we've
just
had
like the logo
with a
of your
series of
religion.
individuals, including a Democrat who was
Yeah.
attending
So
a
like if you
donor event
have
that was taking
apostles
place
and shit,
at one of the glitzy hotels
and
not
they
far from
spread the
where we are
religion
here in
and you
Washington,
click on
D.C.
the
to
city,
say
it'll
the
show
atmosphere
your
there was like a
icon
funeral.
as like
Another person
influencing
said
that
the
city.
situation in their words was
But
just
pick your icon before
not
you make the
good right
name,
now.
because
We
if you
did
don't,
hear
if you make your
earlier
name and
from
then
Jenna
pick the
Malone-Jones.
icon,
She
it'll
is
like take
the
away your
campaign
name for
chair. She
whatever
had what
reason.
was in effect a sort of pep talk for
Okay.
the forces, the campaign staff, telling them all to get some sleep and that they would come back and finish this off strong tomorrow. So that's effectively where things are at the end of the evening. But I got to tell you, Savannah, on a day when so many those close to Kamala Harris really felt like they had the momentum, they felt like the vibes were on their side. It quickly appeared
Vibes
clear
were
that,
on their
despite
side
her
in this
effort to say
presidential
that we're
election.
not going back, that they may be returning to the figures that haunted
I mean, that's
Democrats
just
back in
fucking
2016,
crazy.
where they just
Yeah.
didn't have enough to defeat Donald Trump that go around. So many blank stares, glum faces, people.
You can get
not so much
warrior
holding back
monks.
tears, but certainly unable to
Yeah,
have the
so
smile here. They had been
I
handing
don't
out
think they
American
can.
flags early on, and some of the early numbers were out.
It's
They
not
were
like they'll
cheering and waving
fight
those
in the
flags, but as
like
the night
army
progressed
with them,
and they
but
watched the
you like
returns
there's
come in,
theological
no more
combat. So
waving
like
flags.
other
In fact, they
countries
asked
will
for
have
the-
their own
for the
apostles and
television to be
missionaries,
muted here with the
and
returns,
you
with the
can bring
exception
those
of
guys out.
Hawaii, Colorado,
I
other
believe
places that
apostles
Harris won. They turned to
are the
Biden, got
ones who can
choosing
also
that.
fight as
Instead, they
well,
blasted
but you basically do
music to try to
theological
sort of
combat.
distract
So like
from the
another layer
situation,
on
try to
top.
give a little pick-me-up.
They have no
Is
like.
it worth getting that?
All right, Peter. Thank you so
Yeah,
much.
I mean,
Wanna
if
go
you're
over to Garrett Hick, who's at Trump headquarters
since you
in
have a
Florida,
religion, you
where
should
it looks
definitely
like the party
start
is
like
still
spreading it,
going.
because
And of
like
course, the question is whether or not we will hear from the former
There's
president
things
tonight.
that you can choose, like those sects, those beliefs that you have. Like there's one that I really like to do if I'm going for a domination victory, where if you are the dominant religion in the city, your army does a bunch more. It does like +5 more damage than it usually would.
Interesting.
Yeah. Like there's really good things like with religion that you can add.
The party there
Okay.
emptying out a lot of the folks.
Holy shit, this is a lot.
For example,
Yeah,
other
you got a
close
lot to
Trump
choose
aides
from.
and allies making their way across the street. Still no sign of the former president here yet, Savannah.
Okay, thank you.
We've got another call to make here. I believe this is the state of New Mexico.
Well, can't do that
New York
one.
Times is estimating that Trump will lose the 120 to 150-year-old vote.
5 electoral votes. Here's
120 to
the breakdown right now. You
150
see
what?
the difference, 43,095
50-year-old voting category.
in there, so very little left to count. Where does that bring us to in the road to 270? Donald Trump at 246. Harris now up to 194.
Let's go over to Tom Yamas, who's at the big board of Pennsylvania.
Oh,
You've
New
got some
Mexico
bellwether
went blue?
counties that are reporting in now. And it's,
Whoa!
Yeah, they always do.
Yeah, one in the east,
Jesse,
one in the west. Let's start.
we
in
need
the
to vote
east,
Kamala.
Northampton County. This is
Vote Kamala,
eastern
Jesse.
PA right here, south central suburbs. 95% of the vote is in. Trump is there with 51%. Remember, Biden won this in 2020, so Trump able to flip that bellwether county. There's still some vote out, but it's unclear if Harris can catch up. Erie County. We haven't talked enough about Erie County tonight. This is one of those swing counties that we watch in western PA. Biden won it in 2020. Tonight, Trump is on top. There's about 3,000 votes still left to be counted here. It's unclear. She's going to have to get all those votes if she wants to flip that county back blue. Let's go to the collar counties in Philadelphia. Let's talk about what we have here. So we want to compare to 2020 to see how she's driving out the vote. Underperforming right now in Chester County. Still 20% of the vote is out there. Montgomery County. 86% of the vote is
Chester
in.
County.
62% for Biden. Again,
More like
60%.
Lexington
She's
County.
underperforming there. We move down to Delco. 95% in, 62.9, slightly underperforming there. Philadelphia County, this is where she closed out her campaign with Lady Gaga and Oprah as well.
This is where she closed out her campaign with Lady Gaga and Oprah.
She's at
What a
78,
fucking
and
statement.
finally,
Yeah.
Bucks County here. Trump has flipped this right now. There's still about 30% of the vote is out, 69%. He had 51. Biden did in 2020. Trump
Did you
tonight
mean
with
Harley
50%.
Quinn?
Still some vote to be counted there, but those aren't promising numbers in the collar counties right now. And the bellwethers, one in the east, one in the west, showing signs that Pennsylvania could turn red. Still a lot of vote out,
That
guys,
actually
but
is.
this may be one of the reasons.
Pretty
And we
funny.
don't know why Vice President Harris decided not to speak tonight, but this may be one of the reasons why the trend lines in Pennsylvania, from what we're seeing, if she doesn't win Pennsylvania, there is no longer a path for her.
And you're seeing some of these same patterns in other states as well.
Wisconsin and Michigan as well. We're starting to look at the counties there. We walk
I think
through
I've done that
Michigan and
in my
Wisconsin.
last
Still a lot
like
of vote out in
8
those two
streams.
battleground states. But again, those trend lines that we're following,
Yeah, we
we're
did a far
searching these
super
maps to
cut of
see
Officer
if there's
Ball.
any positive signs for the Democrats. And I got to be honest with you, the more I go through these counties, through all the
Hard
battleground
super cut
states,
of
more and
Officer
more what you
Bulls.
see in the rural counties, Trump is overperforming.
New York
Harris is
Times predicts Kamala
underperforming the counties
Harris
she needs
is
to
the
win, guys.
projected winner
Remember,
of
if she
Ukraine.
doesn't win Pennsylvania, the other states don't matter. If he wins Pennsylvania, he goes to the White House.
Right. Whether it's a call or not, it functionally is. I don't know. Is the minute if we call Pennsylvania tonight, does he get to 270? I think so. Yeah.
That's right.
That's it.
That's right.
So
That's right.
it.
It's ball game. I mean, that's
yes.
it. So.
And they're counting fast in Pennsylvania tonight as well. We're coming up on the top of the hour. I think we're going to have some projections
I think we've
to
got one
make.
more
Yes.
projection.
Don't forget.
We are going to hear
There's
from
one more
the
state to go here.
of Alaska right now.
Yes.
And NBC News
Alaska.
projecting that it's
Yeah, right.
Alaska is
projecting,
too
no, we're
early to
saying it is
call.
Too early to call on Alaska. And here's where the road to 270
What? They can't call all
We have a new
4
projection
ballots?
coming in. A new projection coming in. It's too early to call.
He looks forward to
They
scoring
can't keep up with the
270
ballots.
electoral
Yeah.
Okay, let's see the battlegrounds. Pennsylvania, we just discussed
Stop
it.
the cap.
To call right now with 92% of the vote in. Same story in Michigan, but we've been discussing how some of the trend lines are not positive for the vice president tonight. Michigan too close to call. Minnesota still too close to call at this hour.
My
for
favorite
the
post
state
I've seen
of
today
Governor
is
Tim
writing in
Walz,
Joe
but
Biden
too close to
saying
call
no
right
retirement
now
for you,
with
buddy.
Yeah.
we happen here. Arizona too early to call, and in Wisconsin too close
Get back
to
in
call.
there, champ.
So I think Tom, you've got Wisconsin. We'll give you a chance to do the bow in the
I didn't
Wild
even know
County.
Bell.
Bow wow wow yippee yo yippee yay. Okay, Madison, this is Dane County. For Democrats right now, she's doing just fine here. 75% is where Biden was in 2020. With 95% of the vote, and she's at 75%. That's fine for her. Milwaukee, we're going to be waiting on the biggest city and the biggest county in Wisconsin for a few more hours, I would say, maybe more than that. She's at 66%, but again, 40% of the vote in Milwaukee is not in. This is a big Democratic county, so maybe she can run her numbers up there. But then when we look at the WOW counties here, Ozaki, this is the O in the WOW, 81%. Trump was at 55.2. He's almost matching where he was 4 years ago. Let's go over to Washington County, 68, overperforming there. Let's go down to Waukesha. Slightly underperforming, still some of the votes out there. But these two counties just south of Milwaukee, they're still part of the Milwaukee media market. Racine, 51%. He's overperforming there, but still half the vote is out there. And then Kenosha, 95% in.
Stop telling me to go vote.
Well.
Nickelodeon Kids' Choice Awards already
under
happened.
Obama. Trump was able to flip them over and then hold them as well. We can go to the Bow counties now. This is around Green Bay. 56% Trump overperforming there. We'll come down. Sorry, let me go over here to Winnebago. 50 again, overperforming.
To the Winnebago.
And we go to Atagamey, again, slightly overperforming. Guys, so as we study this map, let me go to some of the Democratic strongholds, see how she's doing. La Crosse, 95%. So look, it's a slight drop, but again, when we're talking about a margin of 20,000 votes, that's what it was in 2016 and 2020. You want to be on top. You want to be overperforming everywhere you look. She's about at the same mark, slightly higher, but not by much in Eau Claire. And then another one we're watching, Sauk. This is one of those bellwethers. 50%, matching Biden 4 years ago. 95% of the vote is in. And we'll look at Dorr. That's one we're watching. She's on top, but only by about 466 votes. It's unclear if he'll catch her. She may take Dorr County. It's still unclear in Wisconsin what's going to happen, guys.
All right, well, back with our panel now, including our guest, Jim Messina, former White House Deputy Chief of Staff under President Obama. Mark Lauder remains with us. He was part of the 2020 campaign for here. Jim, when you see those trends that Tom has been walking through, and there's a
struggling
you about the Harris campaign.
Well, the county that Tom just walked through that really scared me the most, I ran President Obama's campaign, and I was obsessed with Bucks County in Pennsylvania. Where Bucks County goes, we go. And we spent more time and resources there.
If Trump wins, he would have single-handedly kept America from having the first female president twice.
The fact that they're not going to win Bucks County is really difficult and starts to say to folks, hey, you know, we have a problem here. The other thing
Greatest hero in American history.
Enough turnout in Philly to get there, and we've all. I've spent my entire
play your
life
schedule
waiting for Philly to come in. I just have anger. I hate the Eagles.
All right, relax.
But you know, every 4 years we're having this discussion. Usually, it's enough. 6 out of the last 7 elections, Democrats have won Pennsylvania. Tonight, we're not sure there's enough out there.
But we were having the discussion several times this evening about, you know, has there been
I
a
think
failure
I'm gonna
to
have to
recognize that the electorate is changing?
Kick
that
this city's
everything you
ass.
think
Like,
you
you're sitting
may
way
have
too
known
close to this iron deposit,
doesn't
and I need
represent
it.
what we see today.
Well, what those numbers show me tonight is
Still
Democrats
up
have a
in
rural
Wisconsin,
problem.
too.
We are absolutely bleeding votes in historic numbers. Barack Obama did very well in rural America. It started with Hillary. Biden did a little bit better. But when you look at the numbers, what's happening tonight?
Yeah, he's up by
the gender
3
gap
points
is
in
there.
Nevada.
Women are
That's
performing in
surprising.
the suburbs. That's not the problem. The problem is we're just doing 2 to 4
fuck's
points
going on over
worse
there?
in rural, and we're not getting the big turnout in the cities because we're bleeding some of the young voters you guys have been talking about.
But also, Donald Trump keeps finding more voters
That's
in these
exactly
rural
right.
areas. I mean, I think there's, you know, you often hear in these political shows that you all host, you know, you hear about the ceiling that Donald Trump has. Oh,
Yeah.
he can't get over 48. He can't get over 49%. He's found more voters, and we're seeing it tonight when he's overperforming in some of these ruby red rural districts.
Which, by the way, for the 3rd time you run for president, that just never happens.
Yeah.
And I really do think that his campaign has figured out a way to do this and really target some of these demographics. Obviously, the young white male was the right thing to do. Getting into minority communities was the right thing to do. You know, Democrats need an entire autopsy if it goes the way it looks like to say, what do we need to do?
But does Trump transcend politics as we know it? I mean, that he was able to be as successful as he had by sticking his finger in the eye of the political establishment, of going where no other candidate could or had gone before.
What is true is Donald Trump has always been underestimated by Democrats and has always figured out a way to juice turnout in ways that we thought were both abhorrent and didn't make sense to Democrats, but clearly has worked tonight. And this is that was a story of 2016, and it is a story
We need to get
of
more
tonight.
housing.
You know what's interesting to me? I'm thinking back to the Republican National Convention when
Either
we were
by
all
building like
sitting there, and Hulk
farms
Hogan came
or
in his shirt and sort of
districts,
that
yeah.
moment of sort of super
Aqueducts
masculinity.
are
And one of the
good.
conversations that we had at the time was about this, and it just, as its name, so-called bro vote, right? The young male voter.
Same with the
And
like
the Trump
granaries,
strategy
if you
all
haven't
along
done
had
that
been
yet.
supercharge the base, boost that turnout, crank it up big time, get those so-called low propensity voters. People, listen, young guys typically don't show up to vote all the time, and they typically don't show up to vote consistently. I will tell you that the Trump campaign has, for a bit now, been feeling good about being able to get those low propensity, those people who don't typically vote, out to the polls, specifically with young
Well, it's so interesting because we heard anecdotally, again, from some of our correspondents about frat houses, fraternity brothers getting really into voting for Donald Trump. So I don't know if this is we could call it the bro wall, is that somehow Donald Trump has gotten these low propensity young male voters to come out and vote for him.
It is the hardest demographic in American politics. Males under 30 to turn out. They're the lowest turning out segment. I've spent hours on your show, you and I, talking about running up the numbers with women. And, the Harris campaign did some of that tonight. The Trump campaign decided, let's just give her that and let's go grow our electorate differently. And it looks like tonight that worked.
We've got another result on one of the abortion referenda. Well, let's go to Laura Jarrett in the newsroom. Laura, what do you have?
Yeah, Lester, this was another ballot measure, this one in Arizona, where overwhelmingly by a vote of 62%, that ballot amendment has now passed. Again, this would be a constitutional amendment that would enshrine a right to an abortion up to the point of viability, which is roughly 24 weeks of pregnancy. Obviously, a big difference in this battleground state, where currently it's a 15-week restriction on the right to abortion. So a big difference there. Again, we haven't yet made a projection on the ultimate race for president in that state. But again, the ballot amendment we can project has passed there, Lester.
All right, Laura, thanks very much.
And what's interesting on that front, there's also another ballot initiative in Arizona that has to do with immigration. And the thinking was that maybe that would turn out, if people were going to turn out based on this abortion ballot initiative, maybe they would also turn out based on the immigration ballot initiative, that those would maybe lean Trump. But the Trump campaign has thought that there would be, quote unquote, ticket splitters or ballot initiative splitters, people who would back former President Trump in Arizona, but also back this ballot initiative that, as Laura reports, has just passed.
One of the things that I think is so interesting is we're talking about expanding the amount of voters who came out to vote for Donald Trump is this decision that he made not to campaign with Nikki Haley. And a lot of people thought, oh, that's going to be a big misstep. To your point, Jim, it was his way of calculating, I'm going to focus on driving out the mail vote, because a lot of people thought, boy, that's a risky strategy. Why wouldn't you have Nikki Haley?
But he also never made any overtures to Nikki Haley voters. When Nikki Haley dropped out of the race, there was never a sense of, here's an olive branch, come into my tent.
But there were a million people that voted for Nikki Haley in battleground states, and I mean, that's a real gutsy move to say, you know what, I'm not interested.
But the true answer is you could have done both. Like, he could have done both, like a good presidential campaign usually would. In a race where 70-some% of Americans say we're on the wrong track, this race was really close because Donald Trump couldn't ever grow his vote past these young voters we're talking about. Had he been able to do both those things, to your point, 1 million people voted. They were just sitting out there. I remember Nikki on one of your shows this week saying, no one's called me, no one's asked. Because they decided, to your point, they were going to go jack up low propensity white males, and it may have worked.
Let's go check in on Battleground Michigan. NBC's Jesse Kirsch is in Detroit. Are they still counting into the night there, Jesse?
Yeah, Lester, we're trying to get some clarity. As I mentioned earlier, we were hoping we would have the tabulation from the city of Detroit around midnight. We have not gotten any confirmation at this point if that has been completed, but I do want to emphasize something that we're seeing coming out of the surrounding areas. Dearborn, Michigan, that is a community that has a
really
large
existing in the
population of
context
Arab Americans. And what we've been watching for is the potential impact of the war in Gaza, the situation in the Middle East that has been going on for months, and how that might impact the vote here. And we're starting to get some early indicators. At this point, this is not the complete data. Of course, we're still waiting for more votes to come in, including the absentee for Dearborn. But when we look at what we know so far, the breakdown we're seeing is former President Trump has 47% of the vote in Dearborn, Vice President Harris has 27.5% of the vote so far, and third-party candidate, Green Party candidate Jill Stein has 22%. The warning signs around this issue go back to the Democratic primary. President Joe Biden, when he was still at the top of the ticket for the Democrats, he had over 100,000 people vote uncommitted in protest of his administration's stance on the war in Gaza back in the primary. We've seen both campaigns make a concerted effort to make outreach to this community on this issue. Vice President Harris over the weekend at a rally in East Lansing, Michigan at Michigan State University on the campus singled out the war in Gaza at the top of her remarks. We saw President Trump in his final campaign rally of this cycle, potentially his last ever as a presidential candidate in Grand Rapids, Michigan on Monday night, really into early Tuesday morning. At that event, he had a Muslim mayor, a Muslim American mayor from a community in Michigan speaking there. Both campaigns have been making a push there, but we also know Jill Stein has made a very concerted effort to reach out to that community. In fact, she had planned to be in Dearborn tonight, and we have confirmation from a group known as Abandon Harris that she did in fact spend the night, the election night celebration, with that organization, and they are, we're told, happy about what they're seeing from the results. And I just want to read part of some comments that someone gave to me when I interviewed them after they voted, or around voting, I should say, in Dearborn over the weekend. And he said that as it comes to both major party candidates, he hopes that they will, quote, recognize that we don't have these people in our pockets. My vote is up for grabs. It's a wake-up call, and it certainly seems at this point that the positions of both major party candidates, or the lack thereof of a reach out in the way that some people wanted, may be influencing the vote here. And again, in a state that was so razor thin back in 2016, only around 10,000 vote margin in favor of former President Trump. We'll see if this could be the difference maker in this state with 15 electoral votes up for grabs.
All right, Jesse, thank you. And we've got an alert here. This is Nevada, moving from too early to call to too close to call. And they're counting fast. They're 70% of the vote in, too close to call in the western battleground of Nevada. And Tom, let's zero in on what you're seeing there.
Yeah, some interesting things happening in the Silver State. If the trend is your friend in Las Vegas, the trend is your friend
screen.
if you're a Republican tonight. Here's why. Look, a lot of the vote is still out in Clark County. There's still about 23% of the vote that's out in Clark County. But this margin right here at this point in the night is way too close. This is how Clark County, Vegas ended up 4 years ago. You can see it was almost a 10-point split here. It was a 10-point split there. And now we're talking about 2 percentage points tonight in Clark County. Again, a lot of the vote is out. That vote could come in and those numbers could change. Reno, Washoe County, more reflective of the entire state vote. This is the battleground county. Biden won this in 2020. Tonight, Trump is on top. Still, a lot of the vote is out. He's only on top by about 200 votes, so not much to say there. But what we can point out, in the Trump counties, like Elko County here, 64% in. Trump is overperforming tonight. He was at 76. He's almost at 80% right now. And Democrats aren't going to find votes here. I mean, these numbers aren't going to swing a lot in the Democrats' way. This is Trump country here in the middle of Nevada. Douglas County is another, I should say, right down here, Douglas County. This is another Trump barometer that we watch. Again, overperforming. 66% of the vote is in. He was at 63 in 2020. He's now at 66. But the big story for me right now, and a lot of the vote is out, Clark County. I mean, this is 3/4 of Nevada right here. If Democrats hit certain margins where they're 50,000 or 60,000 votes ahead of Republicans, Republicans will never catch up in Nevada. Again, there's a lot of vote that's still out. We can find out exactly how much is out. 223,000 votes, so still a lot out there. Democrats won't get all of those, but they'll get a large chunk. Again, this is still a little too close this early in the night, guys.
Chocolate cookie.
All right, Tom, thanks very much. I want to go out to Steve Patterson. He is in Reno, Nevada, where they had long lines into the night. How are things going there now?
Guys. Of course, we're human.
You know, Lester, a brilliant experience, a process that is sort of winding down in most counties across the country, is only just spooling up here in Nevada. As you mentioned, you know, voting really ended just a few minutes ago, with some of these counties sort of ending the process. People were still in line hours after polls closed, and so the count couldn't really start until that happened, which is why Tom Llamas reporting, obviously, that it's still too close to call, too early to call at this point. Several counties still need returns to come back. It is still very early on in the process, but we saw almost immediately Republicans sort of jumping out to this early ballot lead when it came to turnout. That was sort of the reading on the wall that I think a lot of folks had, and specifically in those counties in which, you know, Tom Llamas was pointing out that are red, they're going to stay red. this sort of map, the math doesn't change in those areas. There's really only 2 population centers in this state, which is Washoe and which is Clark, Vegas and Reno. If she doesn't build up a big enough firewall that we see these returns happen over the next few hours, then it's going to be very tough for Democrats to make up that ground. I spoke to both campaigns. They both feel like they still have a good shot. Obviously, Democrats and Republicans both aiming for another subgroup here, nonpartisan voters. It is a huge, huge segment of the electorate here in Nevada. It is larger than Republicans, larger than Democrats. Of course, they all have their opinions about which way they break, different leanings, and I think both campaigns feel like they're seizing on that. They feel like they know their voters in that group, but that's what makes it so notoriously hard to read in this state. Which way are these nonpartisan voters going? And I think that's sort of what we're going to be focused on within the next few hours. It may not be until 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock tonight before we start seeing legitimate, solid returns that'll tell us one way or another how the state is going to go.
All right, Steve, thanks very much.
That's mountain time, too, by the way. So even later here on the East Coast, let's go to Garrett Haake. He is at Trump headquarters in West Palm. Any word on whether we will hear from the former president?
We will, Savannah, and soon, I'm told by a campaign official, Donald Trump is on his way across from Mar-a-Lago to here in West Palm Beach. And he is expected to speak soon. Now, what soon means is a little bit of a open to interpretation, but Trump himself made it very clear earlier today, he does not have a lot of patience with this vote counting process. He wants this to be over tonight. He thought earlier today it would be over tonight. And it was his desire to speak tonight. Now you see that picture breaking up a little bit as he makes his way across the bridge to West Palm Beach. This ballroom is full. Secret Service starting to kind of close the doors, urge people to get in. They're cranking up the music, Savannah. I do not think it will be long until we hear from former President Trump.
And that will be an interesting situation because if assuming the status quo exists, he will not have been called as the next president.
Well, we will recall that he declared victory in 2020 when, in fact, he lost. So we'll see what his verbiage is here. What are you going to say?
Well, if we remember, he declared victory in 2020 when he lost.
About how he should approach this night, and some of them are saying you should be very aggressive. You should get out there and claim victory if, in fact, you think that's where this is headed. Others are saying, look, let's just walk a very fine line. I'll be really curious to see what he says because this election, unlike 2020, the numbers are on his side. And again, we still have a lot of votes that need to be counted, so we don't know what the ultimate conclusion is going to be. But it's notable he's coming out in Harris.
Yeah, to be clear, in 2020, he declared victory. The race hadn't been called one way or the other. He hadn't lost yet. He lost
Garrett
5 days
Haake,
later.
You've got some new information, Garrett?
Well, Lester, I just want to add that Trump was asked about this earlier today, and I think we have 2 things from him and from his campaign. First of all, his campaign has made it very clear that he would speak when they felt he was well on his way to 270 electoral votes. They were very clear that they didn't feel compelled to wait until the race had been called, but when they felt confident in his path, he would speak. And so I think that's what we're going to see now. Secondly, Trump was asked today what his message is going to be to the millions, tens of millions of people who will have voted for Kamala Harris if he speaks after a victory. Would he give a unifying message? Trump said that he would, but described this as a broken country and said it would be important to try to fix it. A unifying message has not been Trump's strength, candidly, across his political career. But he and his campaign are keenly aware of the expectations of this moment, especially if he speaks before the race is called. Lester.
All right, Garrett, thanks.
And stay with us. Our NBC News election coverage returns right after we take a quick break.
I think I gotta go bed.
Oh my goodness, you're quitting on me now?
Yeah.
Unbelievable. I want to see if he gets Pennsylvania.
I have a feeling that might take a while.
Nuh-uh. It'll happen right after this commercial.
Okay.
Okay.
Alright.
Bye, buddy.
Okay.
Bye, buddy.
About 2.
Huh?
My dad keeps calling. I'm gonna hop out too. My dad keeps messaging me.
Okay.
I'm gonna go talk. Alright. Bye-bye.
Peace, buddy.
And then there were two.
Kristen Welker hosts Meet the Press every Sunday on NBC.
Good for her.
NBC News Daily is #1 for afternoon news across all of television.
I'm Morgan Radford. I'm Vicki Wynn. I'm Kate Snow. And I'm Zinklaya Samwat.
What's happening around the world?
Israel's military is building up there along the border.
And what matters here at home?
New numbers are out today showing more encouraging signs for our economy.
Let's zero in on exercise. We know we're supposed to be doing it. What does it do for our health?
What needs to change?
Let's zero in on exercise.
NBC News Daily, weekdays from 12
We
to 4
know
on
what we
NBC
should be
News
doing.
Now.
What would it do for our health?
Welcome back. Let's check in on the road to 270 as we put the map up on the screen.
Oh, I think it's over.
No shit.
All right, there's the road to 270. Donald Trump inching
They just called Pennsylvania.
No shit. Really?
Let's
Yeah.
take a look at Pennsylvania, the important battleground state, maybe the most important.
They're still
Donald
saying
Trump
too
with a
close to
narrow
call.
lead there. That is still too close to call. 93% of the vote in Pennsylvania. This is what it looks like in Michigan right now. Trump out with a lead over Kamala Harris in a 225,000 vote difference. 67% of the vote in. That's too close to
Trump's
call.
winning Michigan?
Wisconsin, another key
He's winning
battleground state.
Michigan and Wisconsin right now.
89%
Holy
of the
shit.
vote is in there. And we can show you Nevada with its 6 electoral votes, too close to call. 37,000
Nevada
vote
right
difference.
now, too.
Minnesota, it is Kamala Harris leading, but that is characterized by our decision desk as too close to call. 85,000 vote difference in Minnesota. Tom, we'll send it back over to you.
Yep, we're going to be looking at Arizona right now. The closest margin in 2020. At this hour, we have about 53% of the vote in. It's really tied up. It's pretty much 50-50 right now. Trump's slightly ahead by 16,000 votes, but it's still very early. Maricopa County, 60% of the vote. This is sort of, you want to win here to win the state. Harris is on top right now. We can compare her to 4 years ago, but again, half the vote is out in Maricopa County, but she's kind of where she wants to be. She's doing a little better in Pima County. Again, half the vote is out, but she's overperforming there than where Biden was 4 years ago. But when we go to the Trump counties, okay, places like Yuma, Trump is overperforming. 52% in 2020. Again, there's only 35% of the vote in, but he's at 64%. And we can actually, if we move the state over here, I'm going to pop over all the red counties, and you can see how he's overperforming. 68. Now at La Paz, 71. We go a little further, Mojave, 75. He's at 76. We'll come over here.
no shit.
Navajo, 53. He's at 61. Still half the votes out over there. Finally, 58 and 60%. So you can see, I want to show you an interesting stat, though. So remember where this race is right here, right? It's neck and neck. Let's go to the Senate race here, and it's a much different story. Look how much ahead Gallego is over Kerry Lake right here. So you could have that split ticket voter effect in Arizona happening right now. Again, Gallego's at 52%, Kerry Lake's at 46%. When we come back to the president's race, 50-49. So you can see what's happening there. We even heard Jen Psaki talking about this, right? There could be voters who, you know,
I'm in the World
voters are important to them.
Congress.
The economy is obviously important to them as well. And they could be picking Trump for the presidency.
Ooh,
but Gallego for
duplicates
the Senate,
duplicates of the
I think the abortion
chosen
ballot
luxury
let me
for
see.
grant amenities.
Arizona, so voters aren't always sticking to the categories people want to put them in. Can
What
we say the Nevada
amenities
Senate race?
or what
So
luxury
if
resources
Gallego
do
gets
we have?
the Democratic seat, that's a hold for the Democrats, and Jackie Rosen trying to go back to the Senate and hold that seat. How's it
Yeah,
look in
so look,
Nevada?
this is neck and neck right now, and Dems thought that they were going to have this,
You have
this was a
truffles.
lean Democrat. They didn't think this was going to be a tough race for them. This is a little tough right now, but again, a lot of the vote is still
Have
out in Clark
spices.
County. Let's see, we can see how compared to Biden.
I think I might
She's
have
slightly underperforming
spices
Biden,
near
but again,
me.
there's more than 20% of the
do.
vote out in
Oh,
Clark
wait, no, I
County.
have one.
I don't want to make too much assumptions about Nevada without sort of a majority, all of Clark County in, or at least 90% in. In Washoe, which is more reflective of the entire state, neck and
We'll
neck
just
there.
do spices because you
I would say, I
have
think it's fair
2
to say
already.
at this point with the
So
vote where it is,
vote
Sam Brown
A
is
for spices.
overperforming Jackie Rosen, of course, the incumbent here. Not great news for Democrats right now, but it's still a lot of the vote is out in Las Vegas, and that's what's going to really decide this election, Savannah.
Yeah, we'll vote for your religion
the
too.
Montana Senate seat as well, where John Tester is
So
looking to
first one, A.
checking on that. Report back.
Yeah.
Oh no, look
Yeah,
at yourself
we'll
fast on that
vote
board now. What do you
for
think?
plus 10
Steve,
strength
look at this. The incumbent John
the
Tester
cult
is
of
down.
bird law.
This was the most expensive Senate race, I think, maybe
And then just
ever in
throw
Montana
all your
here.
votes into it.
This was a huge fight, and we only have about 30%.
I mean,
here, so we
how
can't really draw too much
can
in
I?
there.
Can I throw in more
We can
than?
see how this is a very
No,
red state.
it'll
Trump's
turn
at
gray
56.
when it
He's
like is
performing at
the
51
most
right
you
now,
can
so
put
he's
into
sort
it.
of underperforming.
So
But look,
like
it's
I
still
did
early in the
3
night. There's
each.
still 70% of the vote that's out in
Oh.
Montana, but this is one we're going to be watching closer as we. There's still a lot of
Because
counties that
that's how
haven't
much
reported vote yet,
diplomatic
so still very early in Montana, but the Republican
favor I
Tim
had.
Sheehy's on top.
All right, Tom, thanks very much. We're back with our panel.
Wait,
now,
so can I
along with
use
our
all of
guest,
it?
Claire McCaskill, former Democratic senator
Yeah,
from
but I
Missouri.
would
should I
spread it
not?
out evenly.
Strategic communications for the
Yeah, well, I have 8. I have 12 and then
campaign.
8.
Have you both here with us tonight?
Yeah, that'll be fine.
Claire, let me start with you. We may hear, Donald Trump sooner than
Submit.
later. What
And
can
then
you say
that's a
that
way
will
you
make
can
it
win
a less
too. You
bitter
win
moment
diplomatic
for
victory
the left?
points. All right, yeah, we did it. So we got
Oh
2.
boy, that's
oh wait, no.
That's a really hard question.
Oh, they fucked you over.
First of all, do I think he will?
They fucked you over on the first
Will he
one. The
try to reach out
chosen luxury
and
resource
be
grants
a
no
unifier
amenities,
and
spices.
Try to
The AI
acknowledge
Fuck
screwed
these
that
you
the
people.
country is divided,
Now we go to war.
incredibly divided.
Yeah.
I don't think he will. That's not who he is. That's not how he got elected. And I don't know
But yeah,
him. You could
because we
probably
got
answer this
one of
better than
those
I could,
like
but it doesn't seem
resolutions
like to me that this
correct,
was the
like
moment where he would
passed
not
it.
try to be his
We got
authentic
1
self,
diplomatic
which
victory
is,
point,
I'm a marauder.
and you
I'm
need
a
20 to win.
disruptor.
And there's
I'm
like other
somebody
ways to
who,
get them than just voting.
I'm going to be your fighter against everything you hate
But,
about government. I think he'll stay with that kind of theme tonight.
Yeah,
Is
diplomatic
that
victory is.
how he ran?
I get a lot of
I mean, has he-
diplomatic
you know,
victories.
to
It
treasure one more
basically is
question
just
further, has he made the process
the later in
more
the game,
coarse
the
in
more
general,
frequent
the key to
you
getting
get them,
elected
you
president?
get
Well,
diplomatic
I think
victory points.
obviously he's got his own unique style, and he speaks in his language. But I also think when we were talking about this earlier, I think Jim Messina was talking about it, that Democrats had made the decision to basically just campaign to be anti-Trump. And for the last 10 years, it's been primarily anti-Trump. I remember coming down the stairs with him as president-elect the first time in 2016, and I
Cult
thought
of
he
bird law.
gave a much more open speech to bringing the country together, because that was his first moment speaking.
At
as
first, I
president
saw
elect,
Confucianism.
in
I thought that was
2016
your
in the wee
religion.
hours over here at the Manhattan.
Close enough.
And so it'll be interesting to see if he's going to hit on his campaign themes.
I mean, let's remember we have seen him on the national stage
my
for 8
builder
years.
go?
I covered him in the White House. We covered him in the White House together. We covered him in the campaign. We know who this person is. He's been president before. He's been a presidential candidate before, and we know what his message tends to be. He's done it over and over in this campaign. And
It's
that
looking
is a
pretty
message
good.
That is darker, that
Yeah,
casts
it's looking
America as a
convincing.
dangerous place, a place that only he can fix. Somebody who
Which
we
isn't
talk about
good.
racism,
We
just
need
called
Jeb
Nancy
Bush
Pelosi
to
as
win.
crazy as a bedbug just recently.
Jeb.
Let's just remember that is, I think,
You'll
some of the
all
tone.
clap.
Now, we may see tonight him look to make I'm not even going to say the word pivot, but perhaps extend an olive branch. Maybe. I mean, listen, we're not. I don't have a crystal ball, but I do think there's a pattern of
well,
history.
To that point, I mean, remember
I won
after
this week,
the
so that
horrific
means the Bears will lose to the
assassination attempt
Patriots.
against him, the
Yeah, the
Republican
Bears should
National
definitely lose to
Convention,
the Patriots.
and all of
Season's
the reporting.
over.
In fact, everything that he was saying was,
He
"I am
himself
going."
said it.
He
Might
said
as
it,
well.
Yes, he said, "I am going to deliver a unifying speech," and it was for part of the speech. But then it quickly became
Bears would have
a
won
very
too if
familiar,
Jeb won.
almost speech that you would hear on the campaign trail.
Well, that's what he ran for.
Why does everybody have giant armies except me?
On that very way of being. I don't know that he would have any incentive to change unless, there
Yeah,
was.
holy shit.
He had felt in the
Rome
moment
is
some
killing it.
magnanimity towards.
I will make one bold prediction.
Which
though,
one is
Savannah.
Rome?
I
That's
predict that
Duke,
he won't
the
say
purple
that he
above
was
you.
cheating.
Well,
But remember, though,
I mean, he has a bunch of units, but they're all low level.
Yeah.
He has what, 1, 2, 3, 4 cities.
I remember
Yeah, he's got
days after the
the
2016 election,
second most
he and his staff summoned network
military
anchors,
strength
executives for an off-the-record meeting at Trump Tower, and it was off the record, so I won't go deeply into it. But to say
Also, your builder
we were
is
under the
in
impression it was going to be a
Swinnet.
reset meeting.
it was not.
Thank you.
Well, and that I think.
So you got chewed out?
You got chewed out.
Sounds like it. I'm like, let me leave. I wasn't there.
Between the lines on that one.
Yes, we were kind of told
Finished on my horse.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Well, this
Nice,
just
good boy.
to speak to that. I mean, again, we don't have to rehash all of it here, and we're still
Try.
waiting for Pennsylvania to be
Ooh, I
called.
got a
But he is
great
somebody who was
person,
called
great
journalists, the
admiral.
enemies of the people. Just at a rally recently, he talked about being surrounded by
retired.
bullets.
We gotta finish
from
our
glass, and
we
then
gotta finish our
somebody
game,
come
Willis.
after him in a attempted
Yeah, I
assassination,
forgot
and
we
they have to
had
shoot
that,
through the media
honestly.
first, and he'd be okay with that. His campaign tried to suggest that's
Yeah,
not what he said,
yeah.
but that is the kind of language that we have heard.
I'll have some
Well,
time this
and
week.
remember how he launched
Go
his
find some.
campaign,
All
vowing
right.
retribution. And in recent weeks
Sounds
and days,
good.
we've heard him talk about his
I remember I
political
was
rivals
ready
as being
to
the enemy from
wage
within.
war.
His vice presidential nominee, J.D. Vance, has spent a lot of time
Yeah, we were getting real
answering
close,
for that
weren't
in
we?
interviews that he has done.
Well, just to bring everybody up to date,
We were pretty
1:30 on
far
the
into
East
that game,
Coast,
too,
and we are
actually.
awaiting Donald Trump, who's expected to
We had
speak
like
at the
we had like
Trump
100 turns
headquarters in
left.
West Palm
Yeah.
Beach,
Still a lot.
Florida. Battlegrounds remain to be called, and so there still is a narrow path. Michigan, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania for Kamala Harris. But the trend lines and the reason you're hearing this tone from Democrats and Republicans alike is the trend lines are indicating that it will be a Trump victory, but this has not been called yet. So you have the audience there waiting to hear from the former president. These are the uncalled battleground states. Those are the trend lines that we're talking about. Pennsylvania, a healthy Trump margin there with 94% of the vote in. Those states out west, Arizona and Nevada, we may not know about those for several hours now, and we are waiting. Wisconsin and Michigan kind of bringing up the rear there in terms of these Midwest, East Coast time zones. So we will continue to
All right.
follow this, but Kamala
I'm
Harris,
gonna
as you
peace out.
mentioned, has
right,
gone
buddy.
home for the night. Cedric
I
Richmond,
just want
who
to say
is
hi.
the co-chair
Yeah,
of the Harris
hello.
campaign,
Make sure
came
you
out
go
and
right
addressed
in
the
for
crowd
Jeb.
at
Or
Howard
Jeb
University in
Boxing.
Washington, D.C., letting them know that she would address them.
You're
and
gonna
address the
you guys
concerns
gonna
set,
you guys gonna come with me
tomorrow
on January
morning,
6th
Wednesday morning. Well, it
for
is
Jeb?
Wednesday morning here on the East Coast. but in a few
Yeah.
hours from now.
The Jeb
we should,
surrection.
it's worth noting in 2016, after his victory, he
We
appeared in the
wanted
2
Jeb.
a.m.
What is this?
We'll
to
make
his
you
good
all
remarks,
clap.
and we are in the 1 a.m. hour, and
All
we saw
right,
that
peace out,
motorcade a
boys.
bit earlier
Peace.
crossing the bridge in West Palm, but we don't have any timing as to when we may hear.
Well, we know we won't hit traffic because of the hour and also the motorcade, but we are expecting him. And we've been talking about, what tone he might strike, and also, I mean, Mark Lauder, you were there,
I don't
you know him.
understand.
If
Does
you
it not
let's just
say
pretend he listens
coast?
to his advisors, what would you advise him
Oh,
to say?
the bird
tonight?
law adherents are all over the place.
I would outline what we have to get done. And first off, we
Bird
have
law
74 days,
adherence?
if
What does
I'm
that
going
mean?
off my quick math, before you actually take the oath of
It
office.
looks like I'm influencing a lot of the
So I would
cities around
obviously
me.
wanna get right
Oh,
to
yeah,
work.
that makes
You would
sense.
obviously praise your staff. Unlike what you would normally do in a traditional speech this way, you will have not talked to your opponent unless something strange happens between now and then, and she calls, they reach out and call. So you're not going to be able to say anything along those lines. And then ultimately, I think, especially if it looks right now, you may not hold, but you're leading in the national popular vote. That's something that you have not done. It's something only one president, Republican president, has done this century. You have a mandate.
And what is the mandate? Because he didn't run to the center. I mean, he ran to the base, and the base, it seems poised to elect him. So what would the mandate be if you're him? What is it the mass deportation? Is it the tariffs, for example? I mean, he's been very clear about his policy.
I think first and foremost, it'll be energy, the economy, extending the tax cuts, and then I think you will get into illegal immigration. I think you will get into and some of those other areas. But ultimately, I think that's first where you go. Also will depend on if you have the House. If you have the House and the House comes with you on this, then you have obviously both chambers. You'll have unified control. And that changes a lot.
He will effectively be a one-term president. What does that mean in terms of how he would govern?
You have, 8 months to get something done before they start running for re-election? No, I mean, in reality, you obviously you're going to have your 4 years, but as we both know, you get that 100 days, maybe that 6 months before Congress goes and starts acting in their interest for their re-election, their campaign interests. You're going to have what I assume would be a primary for to be your successor, and then obviously the Democrats will have their primary.
Claire, how would you
as
see
well.
that? How would you see that rolling out?
Well, I think it depends on whether or not the House is controlled by the Democrats. Remember when Trump got elected last time, he had the House and the Senate. He had all three. And there was, he struggled. He got the tax cuts done. But that was really the only, he didn't repeal Obamacare. He didn't build the wall. He didn't do a lot of the things he had promised to do, even though he had all three houses. So I worry that if the Democrats get the House, then whatever he doesn't get done will be Hakeem Jeffries' fault, as opposed to his inability to produce on the promises he's made. But if we don't take the House, then I think he's got a tall order, and I think he's got to do the tariffs. I don't, and he doesn't need Congress for that. He can do the tariffs right away. I've been hearing from my friends that are in Europe. They're very worried about the lines of those countries being redrawn fairly quickly.
You mean Ukraine?
Yes, and more. Orban and other autocrats that now will feel this is a green light. I think NATO will be greatly diminished. I think our European allies will be very, very nervous.
How
So
the
that's
fuck do I
another
get
whole piece of
something
this.
that isn't like a
I
low-level
think it really is
military unit?
important for us to know whether the
You just gotta
Democrats take the
progress in the
House
game.
before we start
You get them by
speculating too much.
the tech tree.
And part of me,
Like you get
I want the Democrats to take the House
pikemen
because I
and
think there'll be a check.
man-at-arms and
On the other hand, they
crossbowmen
also will
next
be a scapegoat.
with like
Well,
knights.
let's be clear. If the Republicans hold on
cursors.
to the House, they have the Senate. If they win the White House,
Cursors.
you have an ideological 6-3 Supreme Court. You
Yeah,
will have
it's all
the
gonna be
Republicans in charge
through
of
the
every
tech
branch
tree.
of government.
So just like take a look
in
at
this
the tech
country.
tree.
And not to raise this specter, but it is possible that if
And,
Donald Trump wins another term, if that happens, and we have not called
Just kind
Pennsylvania
of
or the
see
race yet,
how
so
far
big
away
ifs
you are
here,
from,
but if that happens,
like,
you
if
could
you
maybe
want
see some
better
court
military,
retirements.
how
If
far
there
away
is
you are from it,
a Republican
better
Senate,
units.
Republican House, Republican in the White House as well, and then the court could become even more conservative. Again, potentially, I don't want to go too far
Fill
down that road.
policy
Let's see how the night
slot.
shakes out, but since you brought it up, Savannah, just to throw that in.
Well, that brings us to Tom Yamas and the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania.
We've been talking so much about those collar counties. I want to talk about the I-222 corridor, and I know we have some PA homies in the house tonight. I'm sorry if my highway is not exact, but it kind of cuts through here. And I want to talk about this because when we look at the counties and how Trump's doing here, this is where the Hispanics are. This is the Latino corridor, if you will, in Pennsylvania, because I want to show you how important this is. So when we start, we can start right here. We'll start in York County, overperforming in York County. As we move up, Lancaster, about even there. We'll keep going. Berks County here, overperforming again, almost all the votes in there. We go to Lehigh now. She's underperforming. Harris is underperforming from Biden. Trump is overperforming. And we finish over here in Northampton again, Easton, PA. Again, he flips this county, overperforming there. And then I want to show you the polls, guys, right? This was the exit poll that sort of, I don't want to say it surprised us, but this told us that the story was going to be different tonight. This is Trump support among Latino voters in Pennsylvania. Look at this number, 2020, 27%. In 2024, 41%. It was just not Latino voters. And again, I know this could change. These are early exit polls. So look at the breakdown here. White, 55, 57. But even black voters, he grew his margins there from 2020 to 2024. And again, that Latino margin, that spread right there. And I bring this up because we were talking a lot about that Madison Square Garden rally, that joke that was made about Puerto Rico and Puerto Ricans and how it would affect the race and how it would affect what happened in Pennsylvania. So far, we have not seen it have any tremendous effect. Again, we'll get all the data post-Thanksgiving and we'll be able to sort of figure all that out. But right now, it looks like it's not affecting those Latino counties in Pennsylvania. I do want to get a check-in on how the collar counties are doing around Philadelphia. And we'll, again, Biden's number, where Trump is. This is statewide. We're going to start in Chester County. Harris is underperforming, still about 15% of the vote left out there. Montgomery County here, again, underperforming. We come down here to Delco, 62%, 61%, almost about the same. But again, if you want to win Pennsylvania, you have to be at the same mark as Biden or higher. And then Philadelphia right now, this is not a great number for her. This is pretty bad. Again, 15% of the vote, more than 15% of the vote is still out there. So she could claw that back. And I don't want to forget Bucks County here. This is the big one tonight when we talk about the collar counties in Pennsylvania, because Democrats need to win this. They need to win all the collar counties. Biden at 51 in 2020. Tonight, Harris underwater at 48, and Trump up at 50. He may possibly flip Bucks County. 75% of the vote is in. Hallie Jackson's the Bucks County expert here, so I'll leave it to her.
No, correct me if I'm wrong. It was Biden County in 2016 as well, right? By a slim margin.
It was Clinton County.
I'm sorry, Democratic County, of course.
Yeah, but this is the only collar county. Yeah, Hallie, you're right. This is the only collar county Republicans thought they had a chance in, or could at least claw back some of the vote, maybe peel back some of the Democratic support. And tonight it looks like it's happened. We're still waiting on a quarter of the vote. But that's a strong, when you see a number like that in Bucks County, you know it's going to be a tough night for Democrats.
And as we talk about the education gap here in this race, I will just point out that Bucks County does have a bigger education gap than you see in some of those other Philadelphia suburban counties as well. You have an area like Lower Bucks, you see more of sort of that blue-collar voter there.
And the fact that Erie County also has gone for Trump, that's a huge bellwether in the state. And that's why Democrats who are texting me are saying all of these signs are just not headed in the right
Well, I mean, Joe Biden, of course, picked up, he did better, with
You gotta be in the office in the morning?
places. He, is sort of from Scranton adjacent, grew up there, but then obviously went on to have Delaware as his home state. But I mean, he did better in some of these rural places that we're talking about.
Well, what was interesting is that when Biden won it, when Obama won it, he drew out a very large African-American population and vote in the Philadelphia area. Yes, did well in the collar counties, but Biden really won it because of the collar counties, and that's what made his win in Pennsylvania so different.
Everyone's speechless here. I guess it really is 1:40 in the morning, except for they're not speechless. They're cheering there at Trump headquarters
I think we can
at
go
West Palm. Yeah, I think we must be getting close to that moment with Donald Trump. His motorcade, we saw it coming, so I think...
Garrett Hake's there.
Yeah, he's there. We can listen to him and hear what the crowd is hearing.
Yeah. Savannah, I can tell you right now, the anticipation far outpaces the available information about what Donald Trump will say and when he will say it. They're broadcasting another network in here, and we're getting a lot of cheers from a crowd who is anticipating a victory speech. I can tell you on the platform behind me, you probably can't quite see it, but the glass is up. The teleprompter glass is up for prepared remarks. But I think it's possible that part of the delay here may be that those remarks don't yet exist. Trump told reporters this morning after he voted that he hadn't written anything yet. He hadn't written a concession speech. He hadn't written a victory speech. He is something of a superstitious person, and it's possible he did not want to put anything on paper early, not knowing the results. For right now, I'm like tapping through my phone. We're reaching out to campaign sources, but I think part of the problem is Trump himself may not be entirely clear what message he wants to give to the country when he decides to step forward and give it. Savannah?
All right, Garrett, thank you. Let's go over to Peter Alexander at Harris headquarters, where they're shutting it down. Cedric Richmond had just came out a little earlier saying that we will not hear from Kamala Harris tonight, but we will tomorrow. Any further word there, Peter?
Right now at this hour. Yeah, I think most accurate to say that we are shutting it down at this point, shy of 2 o'clock here. We're the only ones left, a matter of reporters here who are sort of bundling up their gear in anticipation of the vice president returning to Howard University, her alma mater, as we were told. I guess it's later today. She'll be speaking today, Wednesday, not just to her supporters, but to a national audience as well. Obviously, this thing isn't done yet, but certainly based on the expressions we saw, the information we're getting from those in and around the Harris campaign, it doesn't feel like a winning night for them, a successful campaign. We heard a funeral type atmosphere from those top donors who were gathered at a hotel not far from here. Kamala Harris never arrived at this location, not dissimilar to Hillary Clinton back in 2016 when it was one of her aides who came out and said she wouldn't be speaking, that she would deliver remarks the next day. Ultimately, it was then when she delivered a concession. So they're keeping close eyes on Pennsylvania, but the bottom line is, there are key demographics and critical counties and crucial states where they're just underperforming.
Peter, I'll ask you to stand by right now. We have another call in Nebraska in the
Trump won
the split
Nebraska.
electoral votes. NBC News projects that Donald Trump will win 4 of the 5. There's the difference. This is District 3. Donald Trump, the projected winner. And you can see 58% of the vote is in there.
And District 2 remains outstanding. That's the one in Omaha that's adjacent. district that usually goes blue and is expected to tonight as well. I think we await District 2. Think we just saw that.
And you can see Donald Trump drawing closer to the magic 270 that would put him over the top and hand him the White House once more.
Yeah, we await his comments. Stay with us. NBC News election night coverage continues right after this short break.
All right. That's probably a good place to call it. Got one more little piece of news in there.
Okay.
All right. Thank you to anyone who tuned in. If you didn't vote for Jeb, you caused the downfall of the greatest democracy